Maybe I'll have to call.
Oh, no. I guess not.
Actually,
It's spring. We're spring now. Should you be okay?
I will call the meeting to order for March 25th, 2019, Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For correspondence this morning, we have the Board of Education, USD 298, Dear Lincoln County Board of County Commissioners. The Board of Education, USD 298 of Lincoln, would like to invite you to participate in the superintendent search process. Part of the search process being conducted by the Kansas Association of School Boards is to host a characteristic forum to give community members and patrons an opportunity for input. USD 298 will host the meeting on April 1st, 2019. We are asking that you meet with Craig Wilford of Kansas Association of School Boards at the Finch Theater at 1 p.m. What time is our interview, John? 1:30. 12:30. Lincoln City Council, Barnard City Council, Beverly City Council are also being invited to the session. The time will be spent gathering insights and ideas about the desired traits and characteristics of our new superintendent. The session takes approximately 45 minutes to complete. The questions will focus on current strengths of the district, challenges of the district, skills, traits, and qualities for the new superintendent. The information provided from staff, patrons, and community members will guide our school board as we move forward with the search. Please plan on attending if possible. We appreciate your help in this important task of selecting a new superintendent. Have they done that before?
Yeah, yes, most of them have been private interviews.
I guess that would be yours, and that would be yours. Street plumbing from Lincoln Park Manor. I have some bills here.
I think we got some of the last week.
Yeah, I was going to say one looks like a
didn't
duplicate.
approve of it. Forgot to.
Okay, so street plumbing, a trap cleaner, a sink strainer, $325 in labor, and the sewer machine. Oh, I wrote on there though, we wanted to question that and see whether Jonathan Shale is taking care of that kind of stuff or not.
Well, I think he can do some stuff, but some of us probably more than he can handle, probably.
$210.57 from street for HVAC foil tape and labor. Are we approving that one?
I don't know, does that have to
That
do
was,
with painting?
I think so.
it would be taping probably some ductwork, it looks like.
Yeah, they had to go in some ductwork. Wasn't connected them in some rooms. They weren't getting heat, so that's obviously something he can't do. Street had to do that.
The Ready Industries bill for another pumping of the grease trap. I feel that should be a function of the leasee. They're the ones creating the grease there. If you'd like to take a vote on it and outvote me, I will sign it.
Well, I just have we probably should, every week we kind of go through this on what we should pay for and what we shouldn't. We should probably have a list or define what is our responsibility for the building and what's their responsibility for the building. Because there are things that are debatable, like you point out. Mm-hmm. And, when you get small items, mm-hmm. I don't know. We should maybe have a list so we can go down there and say we're not responsible, because maybe we need to deal with Mr. Grace on that, on what we're not paying, what he's supposed to pay. I don't know.
So I'm going to put that off to the side. This is the smoke detectors. I will sign that one. If nobody has any objections.
No, I think we
batteries.
Yeah, I think we
I will sign for that. An entry lock. Yeah. I don't know what a modernization kit is. It's from Lincoln Building Supply. But the other thing they bought there were some, like a door pin, an entry lock. So I think.
And they were going to get a new door outside. That one door that goes into the kitchen was cracked and it's falling apart on the side. Uh-huh. They're going to get that. That's coming.
Mesh
'Cause
tape
I was
and
up there and I
popcorn
talked to
patch, that would be
Jonathan.
for the ceiling.
Okay.
And then, this would also have to do with the ceiling to paint, I guess, is that the leak, I assume?
Well, they're gonna have to redo, like ceiling tile is leaking through them and through some electrical outlets that have leaked through, and I think ruined some because it shorted them out. So they're gonna have that issue to deal with
So,
eventually.
I'm just gonna make a note, structural renovations. I believe we're all in agreement that we will pay for those, if they're
Well,
structural,
well,
to the
yeah.
actual fixed
Well, the
property.
roof leaks and then it comes down through these inside of above the tile and below the roof and it's there and then runs down pipes, wires, drips over here, drips over there, So that needs to be fixed, yeah, obviously. And that's something I know we're checking on insurance, but that needs to be done
To at
because,
least
well, that could
preserve it,
that could
right.
be a violation by a health code and then you could get some big fine out of that. That needs to be fixed, yeah.
And I would say that's
My
definitely
opinion.
structural. My one objection to the bills that we seem to get from them is that we're paying for their recurring maintenance costs that we would not otherwise be paying for if it wasn't for being a landlord having a tenant. So when the tenant creates a cost, that needs to be dealt with by the tenant, in my opinion. So
I agree too, but it depends on what it is. It all comes down to, obviously, if Jonathan can plug a toilet, that's good, and that's their deal. But if it's where it's really plugged and they can't get to it even with the snake thing, then maybe street has to come in. So every case is kind of different sometimes.
But okay, so I'm specifically referring to this Ready Industries. They're billing us $500 quarterly, I believe.
What's that for?
That's for them to pump the grease trap. So,
Does it plug up every month or every
well, it's not even plugged. It's just a routine,
maintenance?
right? And I would say that should be the response. It's like having your hood cleaned in your kitchen. One time they sent us the bill for that. But my point
That should be a
is,
maintenance thing by them.
right?
I could kind of agree with you on that. If it's not a failure of some hardware that we have to deal with. If it's maintenance, like them cleaning floors every week, that's their job. But again, you're going to have, disagreements probably. What
So
their responsibility was on.
we definitely need to look at our lease and maybe put an addendum in writing for that type of.
We may need to get very specific on what they pay for and what we pay for.
I agree.
I don't think it is. Right now.
Okay, I have one more piece of correspondence. We did receive a legislative update Cindy Nelson brought from the Council on Aging. This is a letter from Sharon Doe. Dear Commissioners, I understand that you no longer have a road supervisor and that Mr. O'Hare has had too much work put on him. So I am volunteering to take one of the tablets and take pictures of the work that needs done and talk to taxpayers as to what they feel needs done in their areas. All I ask is mileage from my house and back, which is 58 cents per mile, the state and the federal going rate. I will probably need some training on the mobile tablet, but I understand that you are already paying for that, and that came with the program at no extra charge. I will drive every road in the county that is passable with my car. If the road is not passable, I will make note of that so you know. Then Mr. O'Hare can start to work on necessary projects, and it will all be in the system. All he will have to do is categorize the work and get the work started. I will take down comments from taxpayers, and then when the work is done, go back and make sure they are satisfied with the job that was done. I will do this as my time allows. Thank you for your time, Sharon Doe. Thank you. It's a good idea. I don't think you were here, but we actually got a brief overview of how that program works from Michel. He brought in his tablet to show us that.
Take pictures on it.
Yeah, and there's basically a touch screen system where you can input a location, or you can type in.
Yeah, address of the road or whatever.
Right, or just say it's a culvert, or this one's a bridge, or this one is.
Probably GPS on it, isn't it, when they go somewhere? Probably GPS, like on a smartphone, they have GPS.
Well,
And it should log then where you're at with GPS. It would then you could show, we've almost, well, I don't know if this does that.
I think what it is, have you seen the maps where you do a pin drop on the
Yeah,
map? I
yeah.
think it's that type of system. I don't know that it has the GPS coordinates per se,
Well, yeah,
but it has
right.
the map.
The map, is
Yeah,
where it is
that's,
on the map.
I think that's what that program specifically
Okay.
does. I would like
Well-
to consider that offer. That sounds,
Well,
Interesting.
I'm not against her doing that, I think that's a nice offer, but shouldn't we have 25 employees at the highway department? Somebody could be doing that now, that's an employee working there. Maybe they're not being done, I don't know,
I have to go.
sure,
but,
sure.
okay, I better turn this down.
We do have 26 employees, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Maybe, well, we just lost one, so maybe we are down.
And I know
Uh,
that Michael's busy now, especially with Bob gone, and, no, that's good, it's just, we should probably almost have somebody doing that already, but I guess we already know.
Well, it either needs to be
The
if-
thing is if we do this, then does that set a priority that this is a list of stuff, and then, we prioritize them, that you gotta fix this, 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 and this, in this order?
Well-
Or are we gonna try, would Michael think we're undermining him and, going around him on doing something?
Well, no,
You know, that's all.
that's his job.
Well, I know it's his job to fix the roads, but,
No, but it's his job to prioritize the projects.
Right.
I mean, if he can't do that, then we need to look at
no,
why.
I'm not saying, it's just are you gonna do this forever now, or just for a month, or 6 months, or a year?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Well, I'm not necessarily against it. We should ask maybe Michael if he would, what's he think about it, because he's gonna be dealing with her.
Well, and I think some of what we had seen is that each person on their route has about 100 miles, and so they are able to do that for their own route,
Okay.
but it hasn't
It
necessarily
shouldn't be
been.
grader drivers, and they should spot a culvert that's collapsing, or
But they either need to be told to do that, or it needs to be done so that they can see it,
Yeah.
and they can see where they are on the map.
I'm not saying this,
Right.
this is, go ahead, yes.
Larry was talking to some of the grader men and some of the guys that were in charge, and they said you couldn't get, that the tablet wouldn't go everywhere, that there's no,
GPS, probably.
well, no, cell
Internet.
service or whatever.
Well, that's internet service,
Yeah.
which is GPS too.
But the program should hold the information
Yeah.
until they get to
Right.
Wi-Fi or internet.
So
You
if
could-
they're
you-
at their outline shop, let's say, they could make some notes, and then when they go out, they have their own notebook, and then when they come back, if it takes them 15, 20 minutes at the end of the day, they could type in
Yeah. They
that.
They said
Here's-
that's why they won't use it, is because you can't get out with it anyway.
Well-
And I said, well, once you put it in there, it'll go through, it's just like when you do a text, if you're in a place where there's no cell service, it'll go through once you get in a place. You can
Uh-huh.
always resend it.
Right. Right. And I think some of that issue is also what, in conversations with Bob in the past, and then I just had a conversation with the secretary of the office, what's happening is when someone makes a phone call in from anywhere, we're sending someone to the site without any tools, without any equipment, with nothing but their eyes. And then there's no log of what that is actually looking like at the site, except for that one person's contact. So whoever that may be, it was Bob before. So then we're sending someone out to the site, then we're bringing them back. If they get another call, then we're sending them to another site and we're bringing them back. So we have one person driving around to look at things without actually doing a documentation
And
that
maybe-
anyone else can see.
And maybe making an analysis too of what needs to be done and prioritize it. I'm not against this, I think we should tell Michael we're doing it, or,
Oh, yeah.
or ask what he thinks of it. I don't wanna act like we're stepping
You're
on.
going to stay for the meeting, right? So we can discuss
As long
this
as I
later.
can, yeah.
Okay.
I would just say, I don't wanna act like we're
Yeah.
stepping on his toes.
No, I understand.
You know,
Yeah,
that's all.
And it doesn't have to be decided today.
Yeah.
I mean,
I appreciate the offer.
Yeah, Cindy.
You need to be careful about workman's comp, you loaning out county equipment. And
It
it
would be
should
my
be
fault.
something.
She's in her own
right-
car though.
I know, but it's something in writing so that it's something,
All
if
you would
something
re-
happened, the county is protected.
Uh-huh, thank you.
All you would require is mileage.
yes.
And now we would have to deal with Dawn on how to deal with that, and you're not an employee regularly, right? You're just
And-
wanting mileage.
And
So-
your tablets should tell when I start and when I stop.
And we'd have to give you authority to use a county tablet, which
Yeah.
is county hardware. Don, is it difficult to give mileage to a non-employee?
No, it's not, but it is something we'll have to double check with work comp about.
Yeah, there you go. That's good, Cindy. Thank you. Work comp. That's it. No, Sharon, that's a good idea. It's just we have to think of all these
Right,
deals, everything that's involved in all this.
yeah, and like I said, it doesn't have to be decided today.
Today, okay. Well, maybe we'll think about it. Let Don think about how it would affect
Okay.
her, or because if you want mileage and all this stuff.
Let's bring it back up later in the meeting,
Yeah,
and we'll discuss it then. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes if you didn't have anything.
I'll approve the minutes from what date was that?
This is the 18th.
For the 18th of March, 2019.
I'll second. I didn't see anything
No, I
that
didn't.
needed correction.
It looked fine.
Okay, it's been motioned and
Oh,
seconded
Okay,
to approve
sorry.
the minutes for March 18th, 2019. All those in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye. None opposed, and we will move on. We need to try to stick to our schedule today. We have Brandon Cochran with the ambulance service, if you're ready.
I would like to wait until Mr. Wallace is present. Is he coming back?
We don't know. He had to take a phone call and he had to leave suddenly, so
Okay.
And he has to leave earlier today because of a medical issue, so we don't know his schedule
Okay.
today.
Start off with giving some things here. Sorry, I should have had these separated out already.
thank you.
What I'm here to talk to you about today is I'm here in an attempt at trying to help this commission at preventing a grave mistake that I've heard you talk about. This mistake that I am here to talk to you about would be cutting the hours of current full-time employees of the Lincoln County EMS Department. I have provided you with 3 documents today. I wanted to provide you with a 4th, but I was unable to get on the internet on my computer in my office to come up with the Board of EMS regulation on staffing. Provided you with 3 documents today to hopefully give you a greater understanding of some things. The first document that I provided for you is the current poverty levels of the continental United States and the District of Columbia, which would be titled ASPE at the top. If you look down, we have members of our staff that fall into the first 4 levels of poverty. As far as family members, they don't fall into that wage requirement now. I just wanted to let you know what those poverty levels are for family members, with that number of family members.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that we are to know that there are employees that have a single income for their family that we're providing, and that's what you're basing that on?
All I'm telling you is what the poverty levels are for the District of Columbia in the United States.
But no,
within the
you
United
said we
States.
have employees that fall into that. So I'm saying, are we to discount the fact that they may have additional income in their family? I'm not sure
I'm
how.
not asking you to discount anything. I'm just trying to explain some things to you this morning. Okay?
No, what you said was that we have employees
Are
that
you
fall
going to let
into
me
that.
talk and finish my presentation?
I would like you to just clarify what you meant there.
None of them fall into those wage brackets, but they fall into the number of members of their family.
And you're not counting whether or not there's a spouse with an additional income for that total, to be a family of 6 with a total income of $34,590.
Okay.
What you're saying is the commission is not providing the $34,590 for potentially someone who has a family of 6.
I'm blocking off this part. I'm just telling you what the poverty levels are. I'm not saying any of our employees currently fall into
Oh,
poverty
I
levels.
thought that's what you said.
No, I'm
Did
saying
anyone
that-
else hear that? I thought that's what you said.
No.
I'm sorry. Go
What I'm
ahead.
saying is that our members of our department fall into these numbers of household members. So, for example, Shiloh has 3 kids. She falls into the number 4 bracket. She does not fit into the poverty level as far as income. I'm just trying to give you some preemptive stuff and some other things I'm going to talk about.
Okay, that's still a little confusing, but I think I understand what you were saying. You're just saying that we have people that have 3 and 4 members to their family household.
Exactly.
But
That's
that
all I'm
doesn't
saying.
correspond to the pay rate is what you're saying is the poverty level.
If you would give me a chance to do my presentation, you'll see where I'm going with this. You're just not letting me get to that point.
Well, if I'm confused, I'm going to ask you. I'm not just going to assume that I understand you.
Okay. The second document that I'm providing to you is the Fair Labor Standard Act on overtime pay provisions for law enforcement and firefighter employees, because this has been brought up in a previous commission meeting about the 171-hour rule. So I'm providing that to you. If you would refer to, and you're more than welcome to read the entire document, but the specific item that I want to point out to you is on the top paragraph on page 3 of that document. And it would be the third sentence in that paragraph, and I will read that. These are provisions of what falls into the 207K exemptions, and that would be whether or not you can pay them at that 171-hour rate or 212-hour rate within a 20-day cycle. It says, but employees whose primary job duties are the provision of emergency medical services do not qualify for the 207K exemption unless they meet the statutory or regulatory definitions of either law enforcement officer or firefighter. And if you read in other parts of the document, we do not fall under that. We don't work under a fire department. We do not have arrest powers, so we do not fall underneath that. So that 217 or 271 or 212-hour rule cannot be utilized for EMS in a 28-day cycle. Does that make sense? Okay. The third document that I'm providing for you is what some of our employees are currently paid. This is a spreadsheet that I've made up myself. The EMTs at the very top, at the current rate and hours that we are provided, they get $13.30 an hour. Overtime rate would be $19.95 an hour. If they work 40 hours a week, they get $532 for that 40 hours. And overtime accumulates at $159.60 in that if they work 8 hours of overtime, for a grand total for each week being $691.60. Take that times 52 weeks in the year, their gross income without any additional overtime, just what they're scheduled, would be $35,963. I'm not going to go through every line here that specifically. I just wanted to start with the first one. AEMT is as follows. It's the same way that EMT was, just at a higher rate of pay. If we were cut back to 40 hours a week, that would eliminate any overtime. That would be the $13.30, the $532 a week, and that $532 a week would equivalent to $27,664 a year. So, with that being said, if you drop down to the little side bracket there on the right, EMTs working 40 hours a week would earn $27,664. At the 48 hours, they earn $35,963, which would be a loss of income of $8,299.20. The AEMT is right below that, which would be a loss of $9,079.20. I've also heard the commission talk about increasing the rate of pay to accommodate for some of those losses. So I calculated below in this bracket in the middle of the page of what that would entail if you was to increase it so we wouldn't lose any income. That $35,000, which is $35,963, which is brought from the last column on the EMT at the top. Divide that by 2,080 hours, which is what 40 hours a week times 52 weeks equivalates to. They would need to be paid $17.29 an hour, which would now increase their overtime rate to $25.94. And the only reason I included the $25.94 into there was because now if you get called out anything above and beyond your 40-hour week, then you're going to be paying them at that rate. If you increase it to, so we don't lose any money. The AEMT, it follows the same thing. That's brought from the last column on the AEMT on the 48-hour week and divided that out. They would now need to be paid $18.92 an hour, which would make their overtime rate $28.37 an hour. The reason that I showed you the poverty levels was because if you, and I'll use Shiloh as an example because she does have a 4-person family. If you cut her down to 40 hours a week, that puts her at $30,264 a year, which is within about $4,000, a little bit more of the poverty level. That's why I brought the poverty level stuff to point it out to you. That would drop her down within about $4,000 of poverty level.
Not into the poverty level, though.
Within poverty level.
Above poverty level.
Right.
Not within, but above it, not in it.
Within $4,000 of being in poverty is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Which includes about half of our employees,
Right.
countywide, not just Indiana.
I have spoke to several of the employees at the department, and if they were to lose that amount of income a year, the $8,299.20 to $9,079.20, they would be forced to look for employment elsewhere because they wouldn't be able to handle that cut in pay because their lifestyle is built around what they've made and what they've been making. I personally have invested a large portion of my life and personal funds into my career, i.e. I started at the bottom and worked my way up over the last 25 years. During this time I have invested time, travel expenses, and even accumulated substantial student loan debt. I know that several other employees of the service have done similar things. I believe that you are getting the cart ahead of the horse, so to speak. And in my opinion, what we should be doing is finding a service director that we can trust to do the job. If you feel the budget needs to be cut, then task the director to do so. My fear of doing this is, and I spoke with Wendy, who was the previous director at the time of the 24-hour shifts going into effect. And
It happened under her, while she was there?
While she was the director. The reason, she advised that there were months of discussion. It wasn't an immediate thing that they just jumped into prior to doing so, which included the commissioners at the time of that happening. And ultimately the decision was made to do so due to not having enough coverage to cover the 24-hour shifts with volunteers and part-time staff that we had. Since that time, our numbers of staff, of volunteers, and part-time people has decreased since that went into effect. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. At that time, we even had a shift that we couldn't get covered because all the part-time or volunteer employees were busy, and we didn't have full-time staff 24 hours a day at that time. And we had Ellsworth County send 2 technicians up to man a truck within Lincoln County. When those 2 technicians from Ellsworth County showed up, one of the employees that they sent was a part-time employee from Lincoln County. The reason that she was not able to cover here is because she was working there, which ended up causing her to come work here. So she was being paid by another county to do so. I just wanted to put some light on some of the things that you're talking about and the potential of loss within the department that we could have if wages were cut so dramatically.
Well, I don't think we've totally decided yet what we're gonna do with wages. We've discussed it, but I don't think we've decided that for sure, based on getting a director and going from there on we have overtime, how much overtime, maybe none, maybe some overtime, but maybe cut back from what we have. We're trying to save money, and that's what it comes down to. You have any
I'd have to put some numbers to it, but I think what would eventually happen is you're gonna end up costing the county money by doing this, because now you're gonna have to have multiple part-time employees, which your policy now is if you have a part-time employee, that if they get so much leave time if they work that month. So part-time employees are accumulating 4 hours, Dawn, is that correct?
Not necessarily, they have to work half the available hours, so if they only take 2 shifts a month, and
They're not accumulating any leave time. If
But
they're
if
not
they work-
doing
And by
half
two
of the
shifts,
total that a full-time person would do.
so if there's 100, this month there's 160 hours, if you had somebody that worked 80 hours, then they would, 80 hours, then they would accumulate.
okay,
So it's half the working hours available.
and I was
So
not
they
aware
don't
of that.
necessarily, just
I was
depends
not
on
aware.
how often.
Yeah.
The other thing that worries me is I've heard a little bit about maybe the schedule that you're proposing of having one employee, and I'll use Shiloh and Jerry as an example. They work 2 24-hour shifts together. The way I understand it, you're proposing that, like, say, Jerry work a 24-hour shift on his Monday with the director for that 8 hours, and that the Shiloh would come in after the director got off and work the night shift for 16. Well, the way that our schedule rotates, and I assume you're not asking the director to work 7 days a week, or I would hope that you're not. When you work Monday, now you work Saturday is your second day in the week. So now Jerry's going to get his full 48 in, because there's not somebody there to work the first half of that first 8 hours of his shift, but Shiloh would only get her the 24 plus 16 would be 40. And every one of our weeks, with the exception of one in a 3-week cycle, is that way. You work 1 day during the week and 1 day on the weekend, with the exception of the week that we work Tuesday, Friday. So you're really only going to be saving 8 hours every 3 weeks for each employee, and creating a severe scheduling nightmare to do so. Or you're going to have a part-time employee come in and work that 8 hours on the weekend. Well, I can tell you right now, the current part-time employees we've got, because they work elsewhere as a full-time EMT someplace, they only work the Wednesdays. They do not want to work weekends. They work a similar schedule that we've got, and they get 1 weekend off every 3 weeks, and they don't want to utilize that weekend off coming to work for another department.
Well, in the interest of time, I think there's a lot to be discussed there. But what I'm going to say is, you kind of mentioned getting the cart before the horse. I think you're worried about something that has not been instituted yet, and we are in the process of
Well, the whole
putting a
department's
director.
in a panic because of the discussion that you've been having during your meetings.
Well, it
and
looks to
worried
me
about-
like maybe they're in a panic because you brought the information back, because I've actually never discussed.
This information is...
Ma'am, I've watched this on the videos.
Yeah.
I actually brought this information to him because he doesn't watch the videos. I watch the videos. And based on just me personally, based on me losing all of that overtime, that's $700 a month. That is my house and car payment combined. Now I am going to have to go get a third job to put food on the table for my children.
Okay, but you're acting as if this has already happened. We've
No,
only.
I'm just saying
Yes,
that there's a potential for it, and so I have to plan because I have 3 kids to plan for.
I
It's just
understand
like
that.
an emergency situation. You plan ahead of time for what's going to happen.
Right.
We know a tornado's coming.
Right.
We don't wait for the tornado to hit and then decide what we're going to do.
Oh, I totally understand that. But this is not something that has been decided. We don't even have a new director yet.
I understand.
What we've talked about is the fact that this particular department spends almost $52,000 a year in overtime.
I understand that.
Okay, that's what we've talked about. We've also talked about the fact that other EMS departments either pay a sleep rate if they're doing 24-hour shifts, which is not full-time pay for sleep hours, or they don't do the 24-hour shift, so that, because right now we have at least 6 employees that are guaranteed 8 hours of overtime every
Correct.
week. That's almost $1,000 a week that we pay out for overtime, and we are in a small county. And some of what's happening to our budget is that we're mimicking larger counties with our policies and what we're putting out and what we're putting forth. That's not necessarily how other counties that are more comparable to ours do it. I've given the example several times. I believe Greeley County, I don't want to misspeak, but it's one way out there in the west. Their emergency manager is actually their EMS department head as well. And I'm not sure if he's taking ambulance shifts, but the point is they have 2 positions for one person that's working that 8-hour day.
Right.
Because things don't always happen. I know you're in an emergency department where everyone needs to be ready to go when it does happen, but when it's not happening, we're still footing that overtime bill.
But
And
I'm coming to you as a concerned employee.
I understand that.
Because now I'm going to have to get a second or third job. You are because I am out of county or working another job that I can't leave, now you're going to have a backup issue. You're going to have a second call crew issue because I'm not going to be able to respond to those calls because I now have a second job or, actually a third job. Mm-hmm. And when I'm on my job, I'm concerned about my pay and whether I'm going to be able to put food on the table for my kids. So my brain is elsewhere, and I'm not giving that patient 100% of my care. And that's when mistakes happen, and that's when things happen, and that's when my license is on the line. Mm-hmm. Because I'm distracted because I'm concerned about my home, and I shouldn't have to be concerned about my home and my pay when I'm on the truck and I'm helping a patient.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm sure, just like we're having this preliminary discussion about what to do, whatever you said the preliminary discussion was about going into a 24-hour shift, that's probably exciting to know that you're going to get paid overtime every week guaranteed, that you only have to be there for 2 24-hour shifts, and you can have a second job. A lot of people in our other departments don't even have that option. So there are both sides of the table to look at, and no one's trying to just cut anyone's income by these numbers. That's not the goal here, to just say, oh, well, you're definitely going to go from $35,000 to $27,000. That is not the goal. But the goal is to maybe look at our department and say we have $52,000 a year that we are dedicating in overtime. That's more than we're doing in many other departments combined. So we have to look at what our options are. It doesn't mean you're getting all your overtime cut, but there are discussions that need to be had. And when we do put a director in charge of this particular department, hopefully they will have a lot of input on that. There are people that have experience in this that, Lincoln County is pretty unique. There are not other 3,000 population counties with a budget of $6 million total that are paying $52,000 for their EMS overtime. I'm just saying.
You said,
and we know that you're not set on anything, but we're trying to voice our opinion on it.
And I
too,
appreciate
so
that.
you
I
understand
appreciate that.
That's
our side of it.
And like Brandon said, like you work at Bennington, and you said most of their people are volunteer, and you're about the only paid person.
Yep.
Well, see, they can't. The reason they're that way because they probably can't. It's expensive,
Right.
and we're not against your employees. It costs us money. We're 3,000 employees. You don't want us to raise our taxes, I'm sure. But that's one reason I ran for commissioner because our taxes have gone up a lot in the last 5 years. We're one of the highest tax counties in the state, and that hurts us for getting industry here, people moving here. And that doesn't mean we're trying to hurt you guys or cut you back. It's just we're looking to, if we can, try to save money, we will. That doesn't mean we got any policy set yet on cutting overtime. We may trim it back some in some places, but again, we haven't set up a set.
And I'll just give you an example in numbers. If one person out of the 6 that are getting overtime did not get overtime 1 week out of the 4 to 5 weeks in a month, for 52 weeks, that's $8,320 that we save by one person not getting that guaranteed 8 hours. Not that all is on one person every week, but you see what I'm saying? If there was a rotating shift where someone did not get their overtime 1 week out of the month.
But that does happen already, because we are paid by the week. So like at the end of the month, or when the 25th shows up, you get, say, on the 24th, your paycheck comes due. So you're going to end up with 1 week that you don't get paid already. You don't get paid. Yes, ma'am.
No, because I pay you. You may not record it as overtime, but I pay it as overtime when it comes in the following month. Because I can't short you just because it's on 2 different time cards. That's against the law.
Well, then,
You may be having corrections made on your time card that your director is not telling you that I've made. Because if your hours split, if you work 24 and you work 24 the week of the next pay period, I add those hours together and I pay you the 8 hours of overtime and the 16 hours of regular time.
Well, and part of
You
the
may
reason,
record it as 24, but I'm paying you 16 and 24, or 16 and 8.
part of the reason I wouldn't
But you're
let
not
you,
getting the overtime in, are you?
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
you are.
You are?
You are.
Yes.
It's already pre-calculated, because even though you're turning in the time card before the pay period ends, it's a pay ahead, actually. By the time by the time the check is being issued, it was a pay ahead. And then if it didn't happen that way, do you adjust the next pay period?
Yeah, basically, that's what takes so long doing time cards, is because you have to go back, because we pay overtime based upon 40 hours a week, not necessarily how many hours you work in the day. So I have to go back and pick up those days and make sure, and I check every single employee that works for Lincoln County to ensure that I didn't pay them, especially when the 25th lands in the middle of the week, and it's not the perfect Saturday, Sunday situation.
The only time you lose your overtime is if you take vacation.
the reason I
Yes,
wouldn't
yes.
tell the employees about corrections made on their time cards, post you changing them to make the corrections, everything right, Dawn, was because I don't see their time cards after you make your corrections.
She knows that. I think she's just saying he might
Yes,
not have been
but I
aware
know
of how
until
that
you
happens
correct
between
it.
one day to the
Right.
next.
Right.
Okay, in the interest of time, again, I'm sorry, I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to happen here, and please let it be known, this is not a decision that's already happened. I understand you're worried about the discussion happening, and I appreciate you bringing concerns to the table, because we need to consider what your view is too. But like I said, just the concept of one person not getting a guaranteed overtime in a particular week on a rotating basis for the entire year is $8,000. So there has to be a happy medium. No one's saying we're going to cut that $52,000 overnight and you're never going to get overtime. But there has to be a way to make a little bit of an adjustment here. And it is my understanding, what you said is that there was a lot of discussion going into the 24-hour shift. It's my understanding from some of the people that made that decision, there was not a lot of discussion. That's how Lincoln County got in such a unique position. We're paying guaranteed full rate, no sleep time adjustment, 24-hour shifts, 7 days a week. A lot of places don't do that. So I've been
But
wondering
a
why.
lot of places do.
But
But you have to look at the comparative numbers. What does their county look like? What does their budget look like? How many people are they serving on a 24-hour shift? Do you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of difference there.
I would like one thing out of it. Then, okay, you're sitting there saying a lot of places do, on both sides of it. I think there needs to be facts given. Which counties do, which counties don't. Don't just tell us, well, there's a lot of counties that do and a lot of counties that don't. What counties?
Okay, I will put that information together for you because I've talked to a lot of commissioners who, I'm not talking necessarily to their
And
ambulance directors.
is this something that the commissioners should be doing, or is this something that really should be your directors doing? Directors finding this information out. The commission is the boss. The director is the one. I come from a business world, and the president of the company isn't out doing what you guys are doing. The president tells the managers, hey, I would like you to look into this and evaluate what is the best solution and come back to the table and tell us what is the best solutions or give us a couple of solutions. Not you guys as being the president, if you will, of the company, sitting here making decisions about it when you don't know the jobs we do.
Well, there are two sides to that. One is our job is to oversee the money. And so in the interest of money is the reason why this conversation is happening.
But you should direct the director.
Well, we will. When
We don't have a director.
When we get a director, we'll probably.
Yeah. And I have commended Brandon many times because he's actually brought more to the table than I had seen in 2 years. And I really appreciate that. I mean, he's been very diligent with coming back with information that you're right, that we don't have.
Right.
No, I agree. You should have a director do that type of stuff.
Right.
But right
so
now,
then
we're
we
not.
shouldn't even be having this conversation, but it came out in one of your videos, the recent thing, it came up. It was public, out there for the public to see what you guys were talking about. And this shouldn't even been talked
Isn't that much better, though, that rather than us have a discussion where no one knows and then all of a sudden you get hit with a time cut? I mean, that's the point.
No, not necessarily, because then what you should have been doing was talking to, again, we're ahead because we don't have a director in place. But that should have been discussed with the director. Now, the director can talk to us as employees. But as it coming out public notice to everybody and everybody gets alarmed by you saying these things publicly.
Well, no one knew that we were paying 24-hour shifts guaranteed overtime for every single employee. That's the public's
And
right to
that
know.
brings up another thing. When I was hired on, I was told I will work a 48-hour shift or 48-hour shifts. That was part of my decision making to take the job. Not to think that now all of a sudden you're going to tell me I'm going to make 40 or I'm going to work 40 hours. I'm going to take a pay cut.
And
Coming from a business world, like you said, you would probably understand that things can't just continue to escalate
But you
financially.
can't take, we couldn't take an employee, hire them at this, and then turn around and tell them, now we're gonna take your pay away.
But that's why your pay is hourly or salary. It's not based on a particular, it's not contract labor. If you were contract labor, we would say you get paid X, these are the hours you put in, da-da-da, or this is the job that you perform.
But if I hired an employee, I told them how many hours they were gonna work, and it always started at 40, and I said, okay, now you may have overtime come into that. But I got told up front, you will work overtime. You will be paid for overtime.
And 4 of the current 6 full-time employees were hired with that understanding. The 2 that have been here the longest were here before the 24-hour shifts went into effect. I would like to make one more comment. You talked about the higher tax rate in Lincoln County, and yes, that is a deterrent for people moving to this county, but EMS is also part of the infrastructure of this county, and if there was not a comparable EMS or a EMS service that was here, that would also deter people.
Yeah, I'm not
from
saying
moving
cut,
into this
I'm not
county.
saying get rid of the EMS or we'll make it all volunteer. It was all volunteer not too long ago or years ago.
And that's why they went to 24-hour shifts, because they lost the volunteerism.
But a lot of small counties, and again, we're going to, I'm just throwing this out here, there are many counties, like Western Kansas, don't have full-time EMS service paid. A lot of them.
And there are many counties in
But
Western
some that do.
Kansas that are shutting down their services because they can't man their trucks.
Exactly, they can't afford it. Everything comes down to money.
They can't man the schedule because they don't have enough volunteers.
Yeah, there you go.
We understand that. I mean,
We understand
but
it, yeah.
But that's more of a reality than raising everyone's taxes to continue to grow a department. That's the problem. You know, we have to look at a balance. If we don't start making a balance now, then you are going to end up looking at all or nothing. Do you want all or nothing, or do you want more of like a give and take? Because to raise your hourly wage so that you don't lose too much if your overtime gets cut by 8 hours a month. Do you see what I'm saying? Or 16 hours a month, whatever that may be. It's all hypothetical, but there has to be a give and take, or you are going to end up looking at all or nothing. I don't want to see that, for sure.
And when you're hired on at 48 hours, guaranteed this overtime, that doesn't mean that goes on for eternity. Things change. You've worked the business world, you just said. If you have a downturn in the business, there's layoffs. There's this and that. It's always changing. It ain't guaranteed 48 forever. Hopefully it could be. But maybe it's not, you know, based on our budget.
You were hired on at that, and that's what the statement was. That's how you operated.
But it's also not contractual.
But that doesn't
you
mean,
signed a handbook that says that you will do as
I
you're
didn't
told.
sign a handbook. We didn't get one.
No.
We still don't have current handbooks at the station.
Okay,
And
I'll make a note of that.
And honestly, I just spoke to Dawn about that last week, and she said she would get some for us.
Okay.
And I told her, no hurry, get when you have the time.
Well, there we go
But
again.
we-
I mean,
we
that's a
weren't provided with
director
handbook.
issue.
You should have been given a handbook when you filled out your paperwork, and I'm pretty certain that every single one of you guys were given a handbook at that county, because I can remember making some for them.
I have
So-
a handbook at home, it's just an old one.
You probably
It's not
have.
a new list, it's not a new
You
revised
should
one.
have a new one, because when the revised ones came out, every employee got one, and everyone had to sign that they received the handbook.
That doesn't mean I didn't, I just don't remember.
Okay, well, I thank you for coming in. I do appreciate that. I think it's more prudent to have the conversation than to just formulate something and then bring it out on the table. So that's my opinion. I think that's how the board has done it. I'm sorry if that alarmed you to an unnecessary extent. But we will just continue this conversation, and nothing has been set in stone. And we will definitely be discussing this as we pursue a director position. So thank you for coming in. Leann, if you have your information for us, do we?
Executive session, please.
Okay. So we need to do an executive session, and it looks like Doug, I'm sorry, we're running a little behind. Could we have about
I'm fine.
15 minutes and
No rush.
Probably
This
doesn't
is
take
it
that
for
much
me
time.
or
today.
maybe 10, I guess. So we can do 10.
Don't say that, they'll put you on the phone.
Alrighty. I'm going to make the motion. I move to recess into executive session for 10 minutes for the purpose of discussing treasurer department evaluations pursuant to KSA 754319-2B, to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel with the treasurer and the Board of County Commissioners, to reconvene in the basement meeting room. I guess that's all I need to say.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor for the executive session. If there's no further discussion, vote aye.
Aye.
None opposed.
I hate to make you move, but we have to leave.
Executive session as well.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get that number for you.
We're ready. Yes. Thank you for being patient. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
This and this. There's meant to be,
Here's the pattern.
oh, okay, 2 originals. One the county can keep, one that I can either take it Wednesday when I'm in Topeka for legislative and a Federal Home Loan Bank kind of meeting, be right there in the neighborhood of the Historical Society. But there's an extra, and Kelly's going to scrutinize it some additional too. This is the sort of the action piece, other than the obvious signature that's required on the marked part of the application. But it's still the same intent as far as seeking funding assistance for historic preservation assessment purposes and trying to figure things out in regards to this fine historic structure. What it is, what it's about, and it's not unlike what the county has done a couple times in the distant past. Back in the late 80s and then late 90s, early 2000s. And of course things resulted after that with improvements on the late 80s, early 90s with elevator improvement, accessibility type changes. And then after the other one, it was a drainage system around the building, and some work was done exterior-wise, but not a lot. There was a historic preservation fund type project involved with another one, tuck pointing kinds of things. A little bit of work on the back stairs, but the north stairs.
So is this written based on the bid that you had originally?
The 20,300 for the consultant is that rough estimate.
Which is more than what that one was, but we're kind of doing a little bit more than what that preliminary estimate was.
Okay. And who's bringing the in-kind to the table? Is that?
That's largely administrative inside here. There'll have to be somebody to host the architect to show them around, and some paperwork process, request for qualifications type, which our office, and Kelly, we can help support that.
Right. I think a concern we had was the administrator. Does someone have to serve as the grant administrator on both the assessment grant and potentially the actual grant to do the physical project?
Well, that would be a separate issue later that could be addressed. But as far as on the assessment itself and getting the architect, it's mostly county type folks in kind.
So that's what I'm saying. Do we need to assign a particular person?
Yes,
'Cause
so
the
there
board
does
is
need
going to
to-
have a problem
yes.
being that entity,
Yes.
as we only meet once a week and we don't have any communication outside of this table.
Right.
If you get the grant, the state historic preservation office needs to have a point person. There needs to be somebody here that's doing the paperwork, that's keeping track of.
So do you have
Staff
any
time that-
recommendations for us?
Well, Dawn being the county clerk, she knows who's going where and what's what, and details. She can help delegate things
I wonder
too,
if we could
so.
reach out to the Historical Society and see if,
No, it needs to be here.
In the
And
courthouse?
I told them that I-
Somebody who's
Oh,
paid
you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
so that there's value to it.
We have to, that's our level of job, that's one of
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Kind of a public information officer in a way.
But there'll be things that needs to be tracked. The RFP process to hire somebody needs to be doing that process. So there's work that needs to be done, but that work done by county staff can be the in-kind match.
Are
so
we
to speak.
assuming that this 22,280 is going to cover all of the materials that we would need to then give to the contractor who may get the bid? I mean, it's going to include the drawings, and is that
It
the
should.
assumption?
It should.
It's not just a recommendation to us, it's actually the format and the layout and the blueprint for whoever does the work. Is that correct? Or?
I don't think we went as far as the blueprints. It's
Not-
more of the
not
assessment
formal,
study.
not formal designs to go to construction yet.
I think that can be rolled into
into
the
the,
next,
into the actual
next
project.
one.
Okay,
Yes, yeah.
that's what I was getting at.
So
where,
this is-
where it cuts off.
Right.
In the
This is
process.
basically somebody's going to be going around. They're going to look at the exterior shell of the building. So we're talking the masonry, the windows, the painting of if there's any wood issues, stuff like that.
Everything structural.
Structural. Provide a report on what the issues are, what they suggest for moving forward with that, and the cost estimates for that.
Okay.
And that's the information that we can use into.
So we will know
hopefully
where
the
we
next-
stand as far as an overall project total and phases, a
Right.
phase
Yeah.
type breakdown.
Kind of a
So-
timeline
Uh-huh.
of, well, this could be an early important one. This could be a secondary or tertiary type.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
So this is a 60-40. Is that also what we're looking at for a split on the project part of it when we move on to the next?
If it's Heritage Trust Fund, that can be an 80-20, 85-15,
Okay.
something like that. They are,
That's good news.
there's tight competition anymore because they haven't raised the ceiling and the dollars, Kansas economy, it's not generating as much recorded deeds as it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. But still, a structure like this should be competitive, especially with detailed assessment type information. Should be able to help.
Who determines that Heritage Funds is funding?
Well, it's a similar board that looks at those as also looking at these. They already have their recommendations because of a committee that's met on the Heritage Trust Fund, but they'll meet on May 4th to make the announcement on these as well as on those. That's kind of the timeline on the
Good. I'll look at
the
it.
process.
If we're able to capture this grant, then where do we go with the RFP process? Is there a specific? I mean, how do you solicit for this assessment to be done?
I think the State Historic Preservation Office probably has some
A list.
examples of
Okay.
RFPs and architects that have done a lot of different projects, so you can kind of, they have a listserv, so you can send it out through that. So
Okay.
it's just a matter, you have to put the RFP together, you've got
And
to
are
send
we-
it out,
is
you've
that-
got to review it, you've got to open bids, you've got to do all that kind of
Is
stuff.
that what we're kind of tasking the administrator of the grant to do?
And we'll
once
be
it-
in support of that person, Don, for example, to be supportive of, get it out and get it to XYZ. And there'll be 4 or 5 that'll show interest, I'm
May
sure.
I have
so.
this?
Yeah,
Or do you-
yep, that's an
okay.
extra. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I brought a couple of those if anybody else wants one. That kind of gives an idea on how they score things,
All right.
how they look at it, so.
Thank you very much for putting all of this together. I would entertain a motion to, I guess we could do
I
them
will move
separately.
the chairman sign the grant application for assessment of the Lincoln County Courthouse.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for the chairman to sign the application that has been put together with our Economic Development and North Central Regional Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion?
I would include in my motion also the letter.
Do you want to combine them?
Yes, I think the letter needs to go with it.
I'll read it.
Yeah.
The Lincoln County Board of Commissioners hereby commits local and available cash match of $7,000 toward the total project costs relevant to the application of Historic Preservation Fund assistance to assess and ready the county to better preserve the historic Lincoln County Courthouse and its environs. I would just say that would probably be coming out of the line item, or they'll probably be coming out of the general fund.
Either that or the capital improvement fund, it could fit under it too.
Do we want to?
I would say we wait and make that decision.
Okay,
later.
so those are our two options then. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor for the signing, vote aye. Aye. None opposed. Thank you.
And there are several copies of the letter if you want to have.
Yeah.
We definitely want an original for the application, but there are multiple ones. Kelly can keep a copy of it as well. So. But we'll be hopeful as soon as Historical Society blesses the assessment fund.
Any guess on the time frame for that?
Well, that May,
Meetings in May,
May 4th,
seems
which
like
is,
you hear fairly
You want more than one sign down?
yeah,
Doug?
yeah, here's another one.
You want signed too?
Yeah, that way Dawn can keep an original. It would be good. So, that first week of May. First week of May would be great to know from them and pursue things.
Well, we do appreciate your work on this. I
The
know
Heritage
it's
Fest,
tedious sometimes to
we've
look through all
helped
of it.
off and on for probably
Thank you.
25 years of the Heritage Trust Fund, and of course, 2 times here at the courthouse, the Marshall Yohe House, depot over yonder. And it's just interesting. Now they have applicants come forward for a little 3-minute presentation in February.
Do we need all that?
No, this is just.
So that could be
copy.
something
If
to
you
look
have
forward
those
to
signed too.
next year.
Do you want a copy? Or you have one?
I have one, but
Sign one. We got 2 more out there.
we can make sure that Dawn has one over
Right.
yonder. So.
Yeah.
I'll take one too.
And she'll take one. So.
Okay. And I think I got that, if you want to double check that for me.
And she's going to look at things also, obviously.
Yeah, I've got a,
So the point of contact now is going to be Dawn, you think, or? Kelly,
Well,
or-
Historical Society's point of contact right in here
Okay.
will be Dawn, yeah. And she knows the building, so that's
Yeah.
good.
And Kelly, you're kind of coordinating that.
well, I'm will help out.
Help
Dawn
you,
as the-
okay.
Yeah, I just can't be the grant
No,
administrator.
Oh,
okay.
I just feel like that needs to be a county
Sure.
employee and because of your guys' systems and all that kind of stuff. So,
Okay.
I'm-
All right, but if you do want to sign another one,
We had 3, I think.
Yeah.
yep,
Okay.
you have extras.
And
She's going to look at it further, especially the section 1, which talks about the big need, and we're going to add some more sentences to that.
Okay.
I have plenty of photographs, so
Okay.
past, recent, and today, so to show things. So,
Thank you very much.
so we'll get them convinced.
Have a good week.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, next on our agenda, Mr. O'Hare from the Highway Department. Sorry, we're 15 behind. Thank you for waiting.
Not a problem. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Last week, I delegated some authority to one of the employees to assist me in taking care of some work with the absence of our road and bridge administrator. And that individual is Jesse Zacco, and I would like to see if there could be a temporary adjustment in wages while he is assisting with those duties.
What are the qualifications?
I'm not going to say what the qualifications are. I don't know if there are 100% worth qualifications there. But he is helping out and doing a good job so far of filling the shoes and helping me along. You know, he's got a general idea of the county. He's able to work well with the crews and get things moving.
I guess my question is, the last time that we went through this, it was a different person.
Yes, ma'am.
The board had kind of preemptively approved that. This time you did it. I'm not subverting your authority within your department. I'm just kind of wondering if you don't have any qualifications to list off, what the reason is for the choice, or how we're to go about evaluating what type of...
Well, the main
compensation
choice
goes along
is
with
the
that.
individual that helped out last time just does not have the time this go around because of taking care of his own territory. This time, this individual,
Had you already approached him, the last person? Has he already been approached and asked
yes,
and said and declined?
yes. And so Jesse is willing to step up and help me out. You know, number one, he's willing. Number two, you know, he does know the county. He does work with the crews, and I am able to use him out of his department of the bridge crew, and we're still able to get some of the work done. It's not going to be a total denial of work, if you know what I mean, because there's still 2 other people within his area, and they're able to catch up some of that work.
What was his previous job?
With road and bridge foreman.
Road and bridge foreman, okay.
Yes.
I didn't know.
Or, oh, excuse me. Bridge foreman.
Drill the bridge.
Just bridges,
Okay.
yes. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Because I didn't know, yeah. And so now you'll have him kind of just supporting you.
Yes.
Like our
And
last.
he's kind of gets some stuff caught up. He's went out and worked on a bridge or something too, you know, so.
Now you know we're going to probably advertise for a
Yes.
new highway
Yes.
bridge supervisor. And if that happens and we get someone new, then he would go back to what he did before. Is that
Yes,
the
sir.
understanding here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That would be correct.
I think before we make that kind of a decision, we need to discuss the employee in an executive session just to maybe be thorough. If you're willing to enter into one, I would make the motion. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the request at the table, but
Would you want to go into executive session with Michael?
5 minutes.
Well, just to discuss his personal, just the individual, I mean.
I guess I just had some questions about if I can't ask in public if there are any credentials that last time when we had chosen a person, basically it was chosen on the basis that that particular grader operator had a high quality route and was maintaining that job in that way, and then they were going to then help instruct or formulate plans for the other operators. That was kind of the idea behind that one. So if this is, you're saying you're just taking the bridge crew chief, for lack of a better term, and you don't have necessarily any qualifications for that person to do another job, I'd like to discuss that a little further.
So you're gonna make a motion to go into executive session?
I will, yeah. I move to recess into executive session for 5 minutes for the purpose of discussing a temporary appointment within the Department of the Highway to Road and Bridge Supervisor pursuant to KSA 75-4319-2B, to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. And I'm actually just going to request that it's the Board of County Commissioners, and to reconvene in the basement meeting room of the courthouse
I'll second.
in 5 minutes would be, I guess by the time we get out of here, 11:25 to 11:30. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
1 opposed. Motion carries.
You're all right.
Okay, after some discussion, we have decided not to approve your request at this time until we do some further contemplating of that, we would like you to bring forth any credentials that you think this person may hold in order to justify a change in income. And we are concerned if we have a lot going on with culvert needs and bridge crew needs, we are concerned that if that's your choice for bridge crew, to change his position right now may be detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish with that branch of your department. Is there any other comment from the board on that?
Well, and if he would be only temporarily helping you until we hire a new road supervisor, and then may go back to a full-time job unless he would be part of getting it. I don't know if he would be hired if he's applying for it, but it would be temporary. So we're thinking that because of that, we don't want to proceed right now with a pay increase either, because it'd be temporary. And maybe only be working 3 months or 4 months for you or less, and then go back to the regular job.
So I guess I just want to make sure I fully understand this, that number one, you're not going to allow him to have a pay increase. And number two, you do not want me to utilize him in that position, that he needs to be doing bridge work. Is that what I'm getting from this conversation?
The consensus on number one would be yes. There may be differing opinions on the board for number two. I'll voice mine. I believe that if that was your choice, which you did put him in charge of the bridge crew, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the time of year where we have a lot of concerns about culverts and
Yes,
bridges.
ma'am.
My issue with that is if then he needs to be doing his job. If there's more administrative stuff that needs done that Bob was doing for you, maybe that's not the best choice. I don't know what options you have within your department. Maybe you need to reconsider who has been doing what and how that would benefit you. As far as taking someone away from your bridge crew, I don't see how that could help you at this time of year. But that's my personal stance on that.
Yeah. I understand your viewpoint, but I'll tell you mine. It's not good to pull anybody right now. You know, that is my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously I can't pull a blade operator. I mean, that's just totally unfair to that individual. Pulling a truck driver right now is not a very wise choice either, because we're trying to move as much material as we can to at least get us by here. And then, you know, bridge crew being a 3-person thing, you know, he's still able to do some of his work as that foreman that he is and assist me, you know. So to me, that made the best option out there. I'm not saying that there's nobody else that I can look at. I just don't see anyone else that would be willing to do it. You know, so that's why I made the decision I made. And I would like to be able to continue using him as much as I can. If I have a project that I need him to be physically working on, I will have him do that work.
And I don't think the board is going to tell you, no, you cannot. I mean, we're in charge of whether we're promoting him or not. At this time, it's not a promotion. If you're to utilize him in the capacity in which you see fit as his boss, that's not our decision.
Gotcha. Very well. I do have evaluations completed, except for one that is off for extended period. There's one I would like to, at a minimum, discuss today for his 6-month performance.
Okay. And you have, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You did your evaluations save a person's, or did you say less someone's?
Minus one person that's off for extended illness.
Okay.
You want to go to an executive session to discuss this?
If that's how you guys typically do these, then I guess yes.
Is this just for the 6-month one?
For now, I don't think we have time with everything going on, and I didn't get on the agenda.
Right, and I think if we could look at the evaluations, you know, next week, we still have time because we wanted them at the first quarter, which you're on schedule. Thank you very much. And then
Yeah,
I think
thank you for getting those done.
It was a joint effort.
Okay.
with
Bob, he had done a lot of them, but I reviewed everything, and I've added, and I did the set down with.
Well, we appreciate you doing it, because last week we were, did put a lot of pressure on you, and you did that. That's good. We thank you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And I do believe we have time to review them because we are not going to institute a monetary match to the evaluation for a few months yet. So maybe we could go over those thoroughly in an executive session that we could have a longer time to discuss. But the 6 month, when is that? Who's the employee for the 6 month?
Tim Line.
Tim Lyon. And when was the 6 months?
I believe it's this month.
So it would be next pay period.
No, it needs to be on this pay period he completed on February 6th.
Tim's the blade guy, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And at this time, you are recommending that he receive his.
50 cents, 6 month, 50 cents. Yes, ma'am. And I did not have input on this one because this one was all completed 100% by Bob.
Okay.
And he sat down, visited with the employee and everything else. So if that portion of it was taken care of, I did not interject.
All right.
Okay. Do you have anything else besides that?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead. Continue, please.
Okay. I do have the 2 gravel agreements that are due this year completed. One will be the Barbara Holmes pit, and the other one will be the Mark Murray pit.
How many years?
I believe both of these did the 1 year at a time.
Last time and this time?
Yes.
You're bringing them back, and they wanted to extend one additional.
Yep.
And is this at $2 per cubic yard?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that for every pit, for every contract?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We uniformed pretty much this system
Yeah.
last year at this time, so.
Well, yeah, I knew at one time you had some at $1 was in the.
We
and then-
increased
then
it
was
to 2, and
but
then-
now we're all consistent everywhere.
And I think we gave them the option of 1, 2, or 3 years. Is that how we did it?
That's how we typically do it, yes.
Okay. So these both are for 1 year, starting, be April 1st, I guess, terminating on March 31st of 2020.
I would move we enter into a gravel agreement with Barbara Holmes and Mark Murray.
I'll second.
There's been motion and seconded to sign the gravel removal and purchase agreements for both pits, Holmes and Murray. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Did you have anything else?
Yes. Been trying to get these fuel contracts figured out. I know we were approached by DNS to do a forward contract. Great Bend Co-op came and visited with me. I have not heard anything back from them. And I put a request to Home Oil that we are currently using to do the same. I'm going to tell you, for my opinion right now at this point, the information I have is inaccurate. Based on the fact that DNS still needs to get me more paperwork, but if you guys would like to review this, you're more than welcome to. But I visited with him last week, and he basically said that his fuel contract price would not be what is on this sheet. And I asked him to provide me another one, and he has not done that yet. Because the fuel that he originally had no longer exists, so he would have to go and start over a new one.
Okay. But basically, just to clarify, you're talking about contracting diesel.
Yes,
or
ma'am.
off-road diesel for at any given period of time? Are they comparable contracts or?
No, they're going to be April 1st through September 30th.
Okay.
Is what I've asked from them.
Okay.
And the reason being for that is, in those other months, we stand to potentially have to add number 1 diesel to it for a winter blend and stuff like that. And just like unleaded gasoline, no company that I visited with will do a contract on gasoline unless you go with ethanol, and we do not run ethanol.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And are these contracts based on an estimated quantity that you've given according to what our history of our usage is, consumption, or?
Yes and no. One put down a quantity, which is low. The current provider kind of has an idea of what we're using, so he didn't ask for a quantity.
Okay. So it's just a price per gallon.
Do we get a discount because we buy large volume?
Not really.
Not really.
Well, not for the one that's giving just price per gallon without a quantity, but I would assume that the other one, if you're guaranteeing them a minimum quantity,
Well, on a transport, I'm not going to say they're giving you a discount, but the way they deal it, the way it sounds to me, is they'll give you a price per gallon over rack price. Basically what it costs them to deliver it and any profit margin they have in it.
And that's probably cheaper than out of the pump at the station.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So it's incomplete information.
Have you been paying pump price?
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
No,
The price from anything I've gotten here is going to be very similar, if not identical, to what we've been doing in the past.
Okay.
I don't see a...
So you were going to wait until you get the other bids to bring everything to the table?
I need more information to make it accurate.
Okay.
So.
Thank you for following up on that.
And outside of this eval, that's all I have at this time.
Would you
Okay.
the fact that Sharon would drive around and take pictures and all that?
Yes, we had some correspondence this morning. This letter, would you like to hand that over? We have a volunteer who is willing to input information into the program, the 311 program that we have. So she's actually here today, but she just walked out of the room. She is offering to go around and identify issues, talk to people, notate, mark, map, etc. on her own time. She is requesting mileage reimbursement to do that. But the letter basically states that if she inputs the information, then you'd be able to categorize it and prioritize it as it comes in, once it's complete, etc.
Do you have any concerns over that, or suggestions, or anything? Or disagree doing it?
Honestly, I'm not... There's more to it than just input. I need somebody on the backside that understands the road and bridge department and can work at that end of it. That is my major concern.
Are you talking about someone on your side to be able to give feedback to the report of, if someone's just reporting there's a hole here, there's a sign down here, there's this bridge is closed, if they're marking all those things, are you saying you want someone to be able to rebut that and say and give a feedback to it? Or
just basically somebody internal that's going to have the time to manage all of it. There's going to be who knows how many sites once we get everything up and running. It could be one site a week to 50 sites a week. And that takes time to process all that and to go ahead and go through and look and see what these projects are, get a sheet put together and say, okay, we got 20 culverts this week we need to go look at. We got 10 gravel locations we need to go look at. We got 3 washout locations we need to go look at. We got tree issues to go look at.
If
we
I may
got weed
interrupt,
issues to go look at.
I think the offer is just to
No,
put
I
in
understand.
the information, not to you would prioritize it. It's your department.
No, I understand that. But right now at this time, I don't see why I would pay somebody to do that until we can get it up and running. And even once we get it up and running, she'd be more than welcome to do that if we open it up to the public and do it on her own time anyways. Why would we spend time on it? And I realize that we have not been using it, but a lot of that has come from a little bit of willingness and a little bit of time available to do this stuff. Sometimes when you've been doing something some way, you end up reverting back to that because it works smoother for you. So right now at this time, I would not be in favor of paying somebody to go out and find spots when I don't have somebody internally to go through what's just been added.
Well, some of those issues are not going to change. I mean, if you have a sign down, it's not going to change unless your operator takes it upon themselves to change that issue. Or if you have a hole in the road that really needs a lot of attention, that's not going to change either.
No,
Some
well,
things may change. You know, someone may go out and grade a road that needed graded, and then that's done. And I understand what you're saying. There's no one there to check that off the list. However, merely inputting the information into the system would be beneficial to everyone because it's there for you at your disposal whenever you have time. It's not, I don't think the assumption
It's
is
not
that-
like a direction for you gotta,
I see
address,
where you're
address
coming
these
from.
issues. It's just like
But if-
heads up, it's like a heads up.
If
Hey, we got
it's
this
a big
issue.
deal and it needs taken care of, pick up the phone and call us and we'll take care of it.
Okay.
You know, that's the way I see it right now. You know, I don't necessarily want to be paying somebody to go out and do it right now when once everything's in place that we can do it to where it needs to be.
Why do you
It's a
keep
free
saying
service
once
now.
everything's in place? I'm wondering, because we've already had this
We
program
need
for over a year.
employees.
But we've already had this program for over a year when you had your full crew and everything. So I'm wondering, you keep saying like in the future when it's in place, but we've had it in place, it's just not being utilized. And actually, it is being utilized, or was, when I asked you for a report, there were about 3 or 4 employees who were constantly updating
Yes.
things on their route. So it already is in place. I'm not sure why you keep saying that.
The willingness and the people in place to do it. At the time, Bob was not set up to do it. He did not desire to do that. And
Well,
I
that doesn't
understand
keep
that.
anyone else from doing it.
No, it doesn't, but it does, because if you're just going to sit there and enter stuff that we're not able to get to, the guys are just going and doing the job instead of putting stuff in there. You know, I understand that you're not happy with the way I've done this, and I understand it. I really do. I needed to be better about it, and I will be getting better with it in the future when we get people in place.
Well, I think this is just
You know, I'm just asking for a working relationship within the board and the community to allow things to get to where I would like it to be. Instead of, you know, cramming it down my throat when I don't have time right now. I understand.
well, we can hold off on doing that. It's not a requirement or nothing. It was just a volunteer
I understand.
coming ahead. That's all this is. It's not like we're giving you an order to do something like that.
You know, and there's going to be several things I hope can change when we get into the future. You know, the company did not want to come out and do a hands-on, and I'm going to make them come out and do a hands-on. You know, it's better to have them go over the system with us than them train me train them. So, you know, there's several things I'd like to get done before we can make everything go the way it is. And then once we get to that point, anybody that wants to, they will be able to do it free. You know, the county's not paying somebody to do it.
Well, we're already
You know,
paying.
what are we going to do when another 10 people come in and say they would like to get mileage to do stuff in their territory? You know, I don't think that we need to make this a paid service
well,
to individuals.
a
You
few
know,
$100s.
we didn't take applications on this.
A few $100s a month, whatever it may be, to keep track of things or to input things where you can see it from any location, to me sounds like an investment. It's not an unnecessary expense. That's an investment for your job security. So I don't agree with, I mean, your defense is saying that you don't have time for it. We're not asking you to do it. I'm suggesting that you take the help because you're constantly saying that you're shorthanded and that you're not able. But this would be a way for everyone who's in your crew to be involved, because once it shows up on their map, then maybe they've been made aware of it. It doesn't mean they're going to act on it right away. And of course, you would be the boss to supervise the priority of those. And what you're saying to me right now is you don't have time to prioritize them. So that's not an immediate necessity. We don't even have them input into the system, whatever the issues may be.
There's a lot more to it than just inputting it, yes. You know, whether or not you need a one call, you know, what size pipe is it, what's the length, what's the right of way, what's all this, you know, it's all got to be calculated into it. So there's a lot of backside work to other than just snapping a photo and playing it. But I guess if that's what this board wants.
Well, we can hold off on that, I think. I mean, this is more or less just a volunteer wanting to help, probably because you guys are busy, have a lot of work. This could be like some help saying, hey, this issue, this problem here. That isn't like a order for you got to go fix this stuff right now type of thing. It's just like a heads up saying, there's a problem here. That's all this is. And I know what you're saying, maybe mileage. I don't know. My opinion is we should put this off for now.
I think now's the time of year to do it because we have issues cropping up that are more visible now than will be in the future or have been in the past. I mean, everyone's getting into work mode. The springs are showing where they're coming into the road and causing erosion. You know, waiting isn't going to help us.
Yeah.
If I may, I guess I would revert back to your previous question when Mr. O'Hare asked for somebody to assist him in the office. The question was asked by the board, what qualifications does that person have to do the job he was asking for assistance for? So I would go back to that question, what qualifications does this volunteer that's requesting mileage have to do the job that she's trying to volunteer to do? Does she know the ins and outs? What her qualifications?
It isn't giving recommendations on how to fix anything. And it specifically explains in the letter to take those complaints from the public, just like, I mean, we're paying a secretary to take complaints from the public right now on the phone all the time, and that's not necessarily a qualification to write down what someone says or to take a picture of what the issue is. I mean, that's how we get a lot of our notifications from people. It's just that we haven't been using the system that we already pay for. It hasn't been implemented. A few employees have chosen to use it. No one's been mandated to use it.
And it doesn't, you don't have to be that qualified to drive around out the country. And if you see a problem, you can take a picture of it, then go on. That's all she's going to do. You know, if you have a road issue for whatever reason, and maybe Michael could address it saying that's not that big a deal now, we won't do anything about it. You know, it's not like it's a policy change or something here. It's just a volunteer.
In my opinion, I am not wanting to do this right now.
Okay. Well, I can understand that. You're loaded, busy enough.
Well, I don't think we're asking him to do it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're worried about spending the money, I don't think, like I said, I mean, how many miles are we going to get covered? There are 1,000 miles in the county. That's times 0.58, you know, $2,500 or so. I don't see that as a grave expense at this time.
I think Michael brought a good point about when the next one volunteers, we're going to pay that one. The other thing is that we're an equal opportunity people. If we want this, maybe we ought to have announced it publicly too. So I would vote no right now on that. I do not think that that's. I think we have a system where they can call the office and tell them where the problems are. At the present time, yes, I think 3-1 or whatever that program is good. I think as we move to a road supervisor, we will probably have someone younger that will be more adept at electronics and be able to do that. So I would say that we would wait.
No, I kind of agree with that too. I would wait too now.
But we can discuss it again. Is there anything else besides the evaluation?
I do not.
Okay, I do have one mention of something. The 120th road issues, I believe you had sent someone out after hours. I've had quite a few calls on that, the south end there of Vesper Road. Is that why you're here?
I live on 120th Road, but the hole in the road is not what I was talking about. You guys had a project here 2 years ago, put in 3 culverts there on 120th Road. And I went down, before they even dug any dirt down there, the old culvert the ground level was 10 foot above the old culvert. So they dug all that out and put the new one right in the same spot. Now I've got a problem with the fence line there. Brand new fence is halfway under water. It's not draining. Plus the road ditch that was left bare with no erosion control on it, it came down, when the water came down, big old gully underneath my fence. The county come along and dumped a load of gravel in that hole, which buried my post, buried my wire, and it's just getting worse.
What is the intersection there that you're talking about? Can you?
Well, it's about a half a mile north of 120th Road and
Colt. Okay. And how long ago was that you said when the county had dumped right there?
That was
recently.
About 8 months after the job was completed.
Probably been
And I
close
had my
to
fencing
6-7 years ago, I think, when we did that project.
2 years ago.
Did we put those new culverts across 120?
Yes. Right, Sharon?
I'm assuming it's like
2 years
It would
ago.
have been our grant, yes. It's been
2 years ago is when the job was done. And now it's causing, the neighbors got half the road in their pasture, not to mention more problems of erosion caused by. And then I can show you a picture of my fence. I went down there while the superintendent was done and said, hey, you need to put an elbow on this end of this here culvert and raise this whole ditch up 10 feet.
that was
We did the loan in 2013,
13.
so it was probably 2013 or 2014.
5-6 years ago. And that project was engineered by Schwab Eaton, and
Yeah,
Time for this and that.
it maybe does. I might be wrong. But I put the fence back.
So what needs done there is the question.
I'm going to need to go look at it and find out.
I think you need to have, what's his name, look at it too with you.
See
Tanner,
what's going on now,
Tanner.
all that dirt's coming down out of that ditch, it doesn't have any erosion control in, it's building around. It's gonna be 10 foot above the hole, just like it was on the old one of these days. And it's already, my fence is being buried, brand new fence.
Well, and in that same area, you said you weren't necessarily here about that, but there have been some issues reported, the holes in the road, the
Yeah, I know
deterioration
the
around the
issues
culverts.
about
And so I got a few phone calls this week from some people who gave some good input, and basically what they're saying is it's not a top of the road issue, it's an under the road issue. And we really need to make a plan to target those specific areas, order the proper size rock, and relay the foundation and the base of the road in that area. Not necessarily the whole stretch, but to have it marked out and to, price out exactly what size rock we're using and do it properly and build that base again.
Where is that again?
I-
At Colt?
Well, it's that
It's
southern
It's-
end,
it's
over
north
the
of
stretch
Colt
of
on
probably
120.
2 miles, but it's
That's where
not,
we got some springs opening up. I think there's 4 or 5 locations.
Just come
in
down
that
through
area.
those hills there, isn't it?
We've got
Those hilly
Yes.
areas.
We've
Yeah.
got several locations throughout the county that we got the same issue. It's not just that road.
A lot of that old
Some
hill.
we have dug out, some we just top treated, and
Okay. I
some
noticed
of
a lot
those
of that,
on-
I drove there yesterday, a lot of that's that sandy, old sandstone rock road to begin with, because those are those sand hills, and then rock on top of that, that's gonna be unstable base almost no matter what you do. But I know we can maybe
Yeah.
put
Once-
some harder, just rock down there, maybe stabilize it.
once the moisture starts going down, they should heal themselves. But until then, if that's the direction this board would like me to do, we can dig them out and we can put 5-6 inch rock in to build the base and cover it up with other materials as we go. We're trying to come up with some options here. We've tried a lot of things and some have worked better than others, but there's not really a perfect fix. I don't know how deep a person's going to have to end up going to make some of these spots solid. It's a unique situation. It's not a common.
It's coming
Common
up those
thing.
hills
Yes,
right through there, and that's, like you say, you got springs in there, and uneven ground, and that's sandy ground, so
And-
that's unstable. You
and-
might dig 10 feet deep and still unstable. But yeah, you might have to work on that, Mike, and I don't.
And there's been times in the past that we have dug on a rock ledge and we've made it a lot worse than what it was.
Would you know how big an area that'd be? How many feet? Hundreds of feet, or half a
Some
mile?
are big, some are small.
Depends on the area. Each individual one, right? I think where it's at, where that happens.
Correct.
Okay.
You guys are 45 minutes behind in attorney day.
Yes, yeah,
Probably on the clock.
okay.
Well,
Yes.
and this between 12th Road and 14th Road on Colt Drive, there needs to be something done.
12th and 14th.
Yeah, there's a couple big
120th
hills
and
that
140th.
are treacherous.
Okay.
And if you
It
guys,
needs a big old 6-foot culvert down the bottom and the bottom of that valley raised up. It's between us and the Petermans over there.
Okay,
There's 4 residents on that road.
okay. So at this time, are you done? We will address, could you leave that for
I
us?
can just leave this.
Yep, just flip it over
My
there. and We will
recommendation
address
was
that at the
the
end.
50 cents, and then
Okay.
everything's in here.
Thank you. Just leave that for us and we'll review it.
Thanks.
Thank
At
you.
this time, I would like to amend the agenda. I believe we need to speak with the nursing home attorney out of Topeka who is potentially waiting on a phone call. Am I right?
I told him that you were going behind, so he was gonna go eat a sandwich
Okay.
about 10 minutes ago, and then he'd
So
be
we
back
still
in
have a
about
little bit of
20.
time?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for
Keep
that.
going.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then I will proceed. We have David Gerstmann next, if you come to the table.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, y'all have a great week.
Michael, do you have a moment to wait? Because I see that your proposal is, you have highway department listed, so.
I think you might like some of the things I'm going to suggest. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me on the agenda. I'm going to hand out some documents. I'm going to give Dawn the electronic copies so she can print these in color. I've read these. I know other people have read these. I would recommend that all 3 commissioners read these studies. These are KDOT and KU sponsored studies. They're essentially the Bible and the gospel for how counties like ours struggling with our roads, bridges, and culverts can actually solve them at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time than the old practices that our county and some other counties have been struggling with for years. So I'll pass these out. This is bound backwards. This is your front page, and that's your rear. I'm going to give you these. The KU has a research library with hundreds, if not thousands, of state-sponsored research studies that all the counties in Kansas frequently participate in, videos, and all sorts of technical papers, how-to guides, and conclusions for counties like ours. And I brought just a couple of these. Randy, I think you'll especially enjoy the ability to query in the state database for things like this. And for every paper they've ever done, there are summary documents like these. And these summary documents are the summaries that sell what those books provide counties like ours. The state spends millions of dollars sponsoring these studies. I suggest that we begin taking advantage of them. Lincoln County is like a lot of small counties. It is struggling to keep its aging county roads, bridges, and other infrastructure maintained. I believe there are innovative and proven newer techniques and practices being implemented in other counties throughout the United States and throughout Kansas in counties our size that Lincoln County can and should take advantage of. I have brought some of these federal and state-sponsored study guides, and I mentioned they represent just a tiny sampling of the KDOT-sponsored research papers and studies that are available in digital format. Mr. Lohman, I encourage you to go to that research library. I think you'll have time as we kind of come from similar fields. I come this morning to ask the Commission to immediately act to create a Highway Department committee. The committee will be charged to work closely with Mr. O'Hare and assist him in the following ways. Conduct research, gather state and federal research papers, evaluate that research, and make recommendations for Mr. O'Hare. Assist Mr. O'Hare to create both short-term and long-term strategic plans for capital improvements and upgrades. This includes using the Mobile 311 system to plan projects, create budgets, create material lists and labor estimates, and create a prioritized map of every bridge, culvert, ditch, and road service that is in need of repair throughout this county. This includes gathering estimates for work and evaluating plans against previously completed projects in this and other counties once a consensus has arrived for what those prioritized needs should be. The committee will provide written reports to the Board of County Commissioners, and that includes recommendations and the strategic plans and project budgets. This committee will be made up of Mr. O'Hare, one commissioner, and at least 4 non-county employee citizens who live in one of the 4 quadrants of Lincoln County, plus 1 citizen who will be at large. The commissioners will rotate at their discretion working with this committee. The citizens who will be appointed will be volunteers who will do the following: conduct research and bring it to the committee as volunteers, do research and data entry into the Mobile 311 as volunteers, and acting as mentors to any employee in the Highway Department when Mr. O'Hare requests it, working on and producing the strategic plans that will be provided to the full Board of County Commission for approval when any action is required, taking field trips around the county with or without Mr. O'Hare to study the conditions of roads, culverts, bridges, and drainage systems throughout the county, taking field trips to other counties to see some of the latest innovations in low water crossing techniques that other counties are implementing, act as ombudsman and women for citizen concerns and requests which are emailed or mailed in writing to the committee that will investigate their complaints and make recommendations to Mr. O'Hare, provide a forum for citizens to bring ideas, suggestions, and requests to save your full commission the time of doing it here. Provide quarterly disposition reports to the Board of County Commissioners so the Board of County Commissioners sees which complaints are being addressed, in what time frame, and which ones are outstanding, which can all be entered into Mobile 311. 311 is a process stream system, just like you would find in a manufacturing plant. It's designed for people who virtually know nothing but what their eyes and ears tell them to key in the raw data. They then sit there until Mr. O'Hare or anyone else he designates looks for things to look at, do that back end at their time and discretion as budget allows, and get them into the system so they start lighting up on the map, and then everybody, including you, can track it without taking up valuable time during these meetings. The committee will be an advisory group only. It will not be able to take binding action, and it will not be able to expend its own funds. Any use of funds will have to be approved during regular Board of County Commission meetings. As this will afford Mr. O'Hare a proper venue for dealing with citizen complaints and other matters before it has to take your time, I believe this will help Mr. O'Hare because, frankly, I believe making him come here every week is a waste of his time and his department's for some of the things that end up getting discussed during the full board meetings, especially when he has to wait when the meeting is running late. I think the committee will be a much more valuable time for him to spend so that the essence of what he decides can be brought before you for action. I also recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve paying Mr. O'Hare overtime for every hour he spends meeting with the committee, and that will have its meetings during weekdays and evenings when USD 298 has no athletic events or any other conflicts with Mr. O'Hare's familial obligations. He can set the regular schedule and decide when the special schedule is called for. Most of all, I believe Mr. O'Hare deserves no less than the above. He has one of the most complex and hardest county department jobs in the county, and he was appointed into this position because at the time, no one else with a college degree, civil engineering graduate degree, or even a master's of public administration applied for it. This has put him at a disadvantage, and I believe that if the county puts 4 individuals on the committee with a 5th that has the right skill sets, the county can begin to do a lot more with the money it currently expends on its infrastructure needs. In fact, when you read one of these authored papers, in some cases we could be doing 4 to 5 times the bridge replacements that we are doing now in the same time in the same budget. There's actually prices in there. They watched other counties do these studies. They've proven the designs, and they are a fraction of the old way that we do things in this county. To volunteer on this committee, a citizen must be willing to do the following. Volunteer no less than 20 hours a month doing research, reading papers, attending county-paid seminars, offered by KDOT around the state. Have a 4-year college degree with a major or substantial credit hours in engineering, pure science, design, or project planning, or an advanced degree in engineering or a science degree. Have executive business experience, which includes running a farm, and have some basic familiarity with operating and working on large machinery and doing earthworks projects. Just about any farmer in this county would qualify. Have some computer software IT skill sets working with software including cloud-based applications and familiar with basic network connectivity principles. And have demonstrated written skills. The committee will meet no less than monthly or more often as it decides. The committee's goal will be to provide a strategic short-term recommendation to this county commission within 90 days of its formation, and a long-term strategic plan ready before the Commission finalizes budgets for next fiscal year. We can do this rapidly, and we can start to affect real positive change for the taxpayers in this county. This is not going to be like any other appointed body in Lincoln County. The committee citizen volunteers will be doing a lot of work each month, in addition to just attending the meetings and finding consensus and helping Mr. O'Hare plan out the county's road and bridge future. I am volunteering to be one of the citizens on this committee if the Board of Commission sees fit. I did the things that I'm suggesting when I worked with USD 298's facility committee. I proved that even when I'm seen as an outlier, someone with even impossible to achieve goals, that I can work with a diverse group of individuals and achieve the impossible. In USD 298's case, many of my goals were implemented at up to 80% cost reductions compared with the original design assumptions. As we are trying to make up time, I'm going to read one more paragraph, and then I'm going to just distribute this so that you can read the last recommendation that I make regarding the decision that you made to shut down the departments on Friday. So finally, I will recommend one last thing, and that's the Board of County Commission holds off replacing Mr. Howe, who I've heard is retired. As one of the oldest county employees, I appreciate his longevity of service, but his experience and know-how regarding grader operation and other highway practices was dated. We should use his retirement as an opportunity to embrace the latest techniques and practices that other counties in Kansas have been implementing now for the last 10 years. I recommend you consider eliminating the Highway Department Supervisor position and benefits and use it to fully fund an overtime budget for the entire Highway Department. At Mr. O'Hare's discretion, he and his staff should be able to take advantage of the coming longer days to get as much work done as possible when we have the opportunity to do it. The savings will also pay for some novel attachments and equipment options that I believe should be added to graders and the department's arsenal for clearing ditches, culverts, and dealing with rocks and built-up berms that line hundreds of miles of our county roads. The savings will more than also cover any nominal costs for mileage, training seminars, and additional seats or tablets of the Mobile 311 for the committee and commissioners' use. That concludes the first part. When I hand this out, I want to let you know, last week my wife and I called over 50 county highway departments in the state of Kansas, from the smallest up to populations of 7,500, to study how other counties are dealing with the extended days, which ones take Fridays completely off, which ones split their shifts in half so everyone can have a 3-day weekend, but there's still work being done on fair weather days, Monday and Friday. Some departments are keeping their shops open to take advantage of the fact when the highway department isn't using all their equipment, and some departments are keeping the secretary or office administration working at least half the day on Fridays to keep that essential office open to the public, which, as you know, calls frequently with sometimes urgent needs. And that...
Are you just giving us the results of the 50 phone calls?
It's in there and it's summarized.
Oh, okay.
I will be giving the commission an actual raw list of the counties we called, the phone numbers we called, and the results. We actually asked one question, and then if they offered additional information, we took notes because we were trying to keep the survey as scientific. But what we did find, like many surveys, we're going to be able to do another survey based on what we learned about these other departments, some of which were very happy to share their insights, including some counties that had done the 4-day schedule and later decided, after they looked at it closely, that there were other ways to achieve everybody's ends, and that they told me they would never go back to the Friday being completely shut down method. Thanks again for your time. You can each want to have these, and I will give the electronic copies of these booklets to Dawn, and hopefully she can either email you the PDFs or print out a much better way than I did these very important research studies.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
Rhonda?
Okay, I'm 2 minutes all my time you need.
Okay.
I was just going to let you know I mail notices out on Friday, so people will be getting the notices in the mail. Not a lot of changes this year. Ag land, cropland, mostly stayed the same or went up a few dollars. Pasture did go up, so now we're at like $57 an acre, somewhere in that range. Let's see, 47, 37 on pasture. Didn't have a whole lot of new construction this year. And basically right now, looking at it without any hearings or anything, in assessed value, we've gained $688,000. So we haven't had a big increase this year. But yeah, everything, you know, houses and stuff, that's the same. Like I said, this year, ag land, cropland, you know, very little change, if any. So I was just gonna give you an update on mailing those out.
Thank you. Did you happen to do the evaluation?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll get on the schedule.
You have, I mean,
I can get on the schedule for Monday.
that's fine. That's,
You said 600,000, that, you're just talking about real estate, right?
Right. That's nothing else. It's just real estate. That's what that is. So not a big increase there, but you know, with ag land not changing much, you know.
Well, that pasture is going up,
That'll help. That's going to catch some. Yes.
That'll help us
That'll
here in
help
this
some.
county.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot more grass.
Right. So.
Is that because of when they evaluate that, is that based on a whole state evaluation going up, or is it just Lincoln County?
Lincoln County. Lincoln County information is used just for Lincoln County.
I see.
Yeah, that's the use value stuff is just for Lincoln County.
But like land values, like say a farm ground has actually come down in
That
price.
That doesn't have
affect
any.
you guys.
No, that doesn't have any correlation to
You
use
guys have
value.
like an 8-year rotated. I talked to
Yeah.
Pruitt about that. You have a rotated 8-year
Average
right?
and stuff.
Yeah.
And market value doesn't have any.
Doesn't have nothing to do with that. Yeah, okay. See,
No.
I didn't know that. I don't know if
No.
a lot of people know that because they know farmland's come down the last couple of years and they say,
There's-
how come my taxes are still?
Yeah, there's
Right.
people that don't know. There's a lot of people that ask
Right.
that, and
Sure.
I
Sure.
explain no, there hasn't. They go,
Right.
oh, okay, because people think it does. It doesn't.
Right,
you
right,
know,
okay.
So, yeah. So, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
okay. Did Jennifer leave or she's?
No, I'm back here.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to see if
Okay.
Mr. Hay was responding to an email Ed sent,
Okay.
so if you wanted to take that, please.
Did you get a chance to,
Use the restroom or something.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll just break for 5 minutes. I'll leave.
you were going to at one time maybe deal with management companies or no, maybe you contacted them?
I've started that. I don't have any. I didn't line up any phone calls yet because I'm thinking I'd like to do it maybe at the end of a Monday, like we're doing this now. So if I scheduled.
Yeah, no, I was just curious.
Yeah.
And also the license, you're gonna look into maybe if we could get one directly from the state without maybe not having to get it from
Well, and
Grace.
that's the question that I
We
think
have that
we
coming
want to
up, okay.
put on Mr. Hay is if he has
And I was
any.
wanting to talk about that. Too. I contacted Grace over this last week just to talk to him because I never knew him like you guys do, just to find out his point of view on where he's at. You know, and well, and I'll talk to him and I'll tell
Okay.
everybody too. I don't want to do it between us two.
Okay.
But so
Just this past week you talked
yeah.
about? Okay.
Well, I wanted to know
Yeah.
where he's at.
Absolutely.
And, I don't know, maybe if we can continue to work with him or not, maybe we don't want to, I don't know, so you know a lot more than I do all about all this, so does I'll do. But,
Well, my personal opinion on that is that he signed a lease and it's not up yet. And
it's up in June 2000 next year, and what he told me the reason he hasn't been paying rent is that, he said we hadn't been keeping the home up to compliance on some of the, facility stuff, and has a fear that if they would get, inspectors come in, they could get fined, and that's held back for, because of the roof leaking, because of other things, and that was,
I'd
I don't know.
like to see that it's put in an escrow account, because I'd like to verify that one.
Well, but that's what I've been
I
told.
know, I know.
I just want to tell you where I'm
I
at.
know, I understand.
And I'll tell Joe.
No, and
too.
I
don't wanna-
no, that's fine. I
Well,
think it's-
no, I should wait till he's here, so because.
well, no, this is all preliminary to, if we're gonna call our
Yeah,
attorney.
I'll do.
but-
Well, I can tell you. Because if we could continue, first of all, his lease runs out next year, like June. I said, would he still want to maybe possibly work with us? Because he has a facility, he has a license. If we could just continue to work with him, and it would take off a lot of this. You'd have to buy it from it, get a new manager, and then employees would they get to stay on with new manager. All those concerns.
But my question is, if he wanted us to bail out his debt, then why would he want to stay? Like,
I don't-
how do you have both?
I don't
how
think
does-
he wants us to bail out his debt right now. He told me he would, if we could kind of agree to ensure to the community that for the next year at least, we ain't gonna have no fear of closing. Because he said if he gets a big violation, he could maybe close and turn it over to the state. And that's why, that's where we're at. But if we work with, deal with him, make an assurance that we can support him possibly financially in some way, that he wouldn't, we would know we're not gonna close for, until at least runs up next year. That's the only issue.
Right, but we are supporting him financially. I mean, we did $500,000 in renovations.
Yeah, but that's our facility.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying that is.
But the $120,000 also is going to fix up. We own the nurse home, so that ain't, it ain't like we're subsidizing his business.
Well.
We're subsidizing what we own.
But when you're paying people's grease traps to be pumped,
Well,
that's
a point. You got a good point there on who has respond on what the.
Well, and I mean, if you talk.
The leaseholder's responsibility is versus us when it comes to
Yes.
the facility.
And I've talked to several other nursing home operators, and they're not getting. I mean, if they're not a nonprofit, if they're a for-profit company, they have to pay their property taxes. They have to pay their own insurance. We pay those things, so it is subsidizing someone.
Yeah, we are. I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I just want to keep the thing open. Is what I'm coming down.
I understand that.
And if we can give some assurance to our community employees, these residents.
I've had a lot of.
That would be, you get some stability here, and maybe in the long run it won't work out, and we'll have to do a management outfit. But for the short term, I was just wanting to see where he stood on that. How are you doing, Jennifer?
I'm good.
Good. I was just telling Alexis, and I don't know if I'll Joe her, I talked to Grace this last week on where he stands in this whole nursing home issue, and he would still continue. My concern is, of course, we don't want it to shut down, and he's not for closing it, but what he's told me now is that if there would be a penalty or a fine, if inspectors come in there and say the roof's leaking, which it is when it rains, and we could get a major fine for that. He's maybe at the point where he would go to Kent State and turn it over to them, and I don't want to see that happen. So I said, well, what could we?
Benefit us though.
Yeah, well, it could. We don't want to see it shut down. You want to get.
Well, the state's not going to just come in and shut it down.
No, but they're going to. Well, they're going to try to behind the management outfit like they do at other places. But then, what would that? Would that be out of our control, or would that be all up to the state's control? That's where I'm at, and I'm not saying maybe that'd be bad. I don't want all this uncertainty, which is making a lot of people anxious up at the nursing home.
But I think it needs to be clarified that the uncertainty came from that end, not our end. We signed a 3-year lease.
Yeah.
Okay? Regardless of what is in that lease, we signed it. And it was the administration's choice to say that they were unhappy there and wanted to sell out and felt that things were being threatened enough to be closing financially, et cetera, et cetera. That did not come from our board. It did not even come from anyone that has anything to do with the nursing home outside of his administration and his paid personnel. So.
Well, you may be right. I'm just saying now I contacted him, but he's considered still maybe wanting to work with us. Now maybe we'd have to renegotiate specific to this. And I know you're probably right that he's in the wrong. And
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm confused because if I own a business and I'm running it and someone is my landlord and I tell them that I want them to buy me out, he has already told his landlord that he wants us to pay him to take it over in whatever capacity. I guess I'm just confused. How do you want to stay and go at the same time?
Well, I talked to him. He's sounding like he possibly would be willing to still continue to operate it.
Well, then he's in a lease. I mean, that's the.
Well, for a year, and then
right.
we're definitely something's going to happen in next June because the lease comes up. Either we keep him on, or we get somebody new, or we shut the doors down. One of the three.
Well, I don't think it needs to shut down if the proper person is running it, but.
Well, we got to find them people, and then we'd have to get Grace's license probably, unless we can determine we don't have to, and we have to pay him off, and we have to get a new management outfit. And are they going to keep on?
But we don't owe him anything, is what I'm saying. We don't owe him any money.
No,
he owes us money.
I know. Okay. He owes us rent, and he counts payables like $300,000. I'm not saying we're wrong, Alexis, I'm just saying I wanna keep it open. And wanna deal with whoever to keep it open. And Grace is in the picture, obviously, he's operating around. And,
Can we call Mr. Hay? He's
Yes.
available.
yes,
I will motion to enter executive session. I move to recess into executive session for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know how much
Let's
you want
do-
to talk to him about.
Let's do 45 minutes. For the purpose of discussing the nursing home license acquisition for Lincoln Park Manor with, pursuant to KSA 75-4319 2B. Number 2, for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship.
Do you think we wanna do 45 minutes, or should we do 30, and then if we need more?
That's fine.
Because
I'll
we're on
amend
the
that.
clock
That's fine.
with him.
Right, but I just figured if he hangs up, we still have our attorney. We can.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we can stay in executive session if he hangs up.
Yes, that's what I was assuming.
Yeah, that's
but
worth it.
okay, so look, I'll amend it to say 30 minutes, please, Dawn. And with the county attorney and the commission and the county clerk. Well, I guess is that okay though? Because you're our attorney, but not necessarily hers, right? So
Right.
Edits, please, to just say the Board of County Commissioners and county attorney and the paid attorney from contract attorney from Topeka, Mr. Hay, to reconvene in the basement meeting room of the courthouse.
is that it?
Yes.
Nice. I'll second.
There's been motion and seconded to enter the executive session for 30 minutes. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. You press the button and don't just turn it off, the silver button.
Yes, can I speak to Dick Hay, please? Thank you.
Office, security, with what you would
We
maybe,
can.
what you maybe wanna do with,
We've been dealing with tax sale stuff for about the last 3 weeks, so
you wanna carry
let's check
350
it next week.
You can carry 357 Magnum in your purse. Do you have a 357 Magnum in your purse? Or?
We have pepper spray.
Everybody
Pepper spray.
defending themselves. Okay,
We have
my
pepper
question
spray.
for you is, you were going to come and see us before you fell ill about the.
Yeah, I was gonna come
the
next
levy.
week
Okay.
because
I
you
just
were
wanted-
so stacked this week.
I know,
that,
and I just wanted to make
yeah.
sure we follow up on that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had Katie's at her 6th month, so I was just gonna come
It's
next
for
month.
those issues. Okay.
Yeah, and bring everything. So yeah, I'm gonna schedule a time with Dawn, and I'll be here next next Monday, so we can talk all about that. Okay, I'm gonna go eat lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don, were these applications you gave me, did each one of us get one, a set?
Yeah,
Yes.
but the HRs,
Okay.
we all got one.
Another one for you guys. Hannah said it's one of the people that are in Indeed. So on the back side in the paper clip are the people that applied on Indeed that have not turned in their applications.
okay.
So one of those belongs to one of those. But I went ahead and included them even though they haven't officially applied.
Thank you.
And this Thursday we meet, right, Don?
Yes.
Obviously at 10. Glad Alexis told me, I forgot all about the end of the month.
Yes.
More paper. Are we done, or?
So
We gotta get Tim.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
I move to approve the 6-month wage increase for Tim Line in the highway department. That's not on here. I'm sorry, I don't know the wage. Just,
50 cents.
50 cents, he gets an increase.
Increase.
I was going to say the dollar amount though. I don't know what it is. So 50 cents increase.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
We have a motion and a second on the table for the wage increase for 6 months for Tim Line at 50 cents. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Where is that?
None opposed. Motion carried.
No, I need the valuation for
Oh,
Tim.
there you go. So, do you want to schedule about an hour? Do we have anything on the agenda for next week?
I think so, yes, but I don't know what all,
Okay,
on top of my head.
so we have an interview at 12:30 though.
Yes.
So we need to make sure we get everything done before then. So let's wait on the highway department for 1 more week. And we will do that on April 8th. I think we need about an hour to make
We're
sure.
gonna start at 11 for interviews Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So we have an hour on Thursday to do our accounts payable and our payroll.
Yeah.
Then we'll have two
Two
interviews. Then the
The
following Monday,
Monday,
12:30, we have an interview.
Okay.
And so we'll need to do everything we need to do, or do
Before-
a lot of that before
before,
then, because we don't
yeah.
know how long that'll be.
Right.
And then, but to go through the actual
No,
department,
apparently not.
the highway department evaluations, we need an executive session, so I would say an hour on the 8th. And,
Oh, you got all the highway department ones, so.
yeah,
I
we just
just turned
gave-
it.
Oh, tournament, okay,
We'll
yeah.
get those back on the 8th and
Sure.
we'll look at those.
Sure, we can, yeah. I'll keep that, right, that's from the possibly one.
Yes, that's your minutes. And
When do you guys want to go back to 8 to whatever? Are we changing the time? What do we do? Because we do have people calling to get on the agenda.
Are you,
And then LaDonna, did I stick that note on there about LaDonna? Maybe I didn't. I probably said it on something of mine. LaDonna said the, she had the 22nd and then the next week of time for,
What's that?
doing the Board of Health. But that would be into May and I didn't know.
it would be the 29th of April, would be after the 22nd. Can we do it then?
No, because she had 2 dates available, but she's not already got a meeting or something to go to.
So it would be the 22nd or May 6th?
Yes, and the 22nd, then she called back and she had a meeting, so it will be that May, but I don't know
May
what
6th.
hours to set because I don't know what you guys intend to,
Since you were an
what your meeting times
teacher,
are.
you're
Normally
probably
we've
pretty
changed
good at-
back to,
Oh,
Do
well,
you
prefer
we'll be,
8?
we'll be meeting that.
I don't
day.
Oh,
really
that
care
April
what you guys
1st,
do.
yeah.
Well, I think we have an interview that day.
We got April 1st is next Monday.
But
Yes, unfortunately,
I can stop and see.
They might still be
You want to?
ongoing after the
Because
interview.
Aljo was a
I
teacher
will.
before.
I just did mine individually with him, so anyway. If it's the same guy, I know him, grew up with him on.
Okay, this Craig Wolford.
Oh,
Oh.
Craig.
Well, he's coming.
Oh, Craig,
This is
oh,
the
no.
interview.
No,
What
mine
to do
was
about a
with the
principal, superintendent?
Last time was a secret.
Well, you'd be good input for.
Yeah,
super-
I'll stop and see.
Okay, because
I-
that's for they're getting a new
But
superintendent.
remind me next week, Don,
to,
to
To stop
USD
in
298 superintendent deal.
after the interview on April 1st.
okay.
April 1st, they're getting a group of people together to interview for
But we'll be
new
interviewing at
superintendent.
12:30 and they're starting at 1, so they'll hopefully
Right.
still be ongoing when we're done.
Right, and Aljo would be very good at that because you've been involved with that before and know the ins and outs of the USD 298.
Excuse me.
So when are we returning hours?
My suggestion would be we wait till May, but
Yes.
really up to you. I
I would rather wait.
absolutely. April
And do we
would be
want to
fine.
do 8 or do you?
I don't. It is.
I like it this time, but some
I
people
do
don't.
too.
Well,
I
I
do
like
too.
it later because
It gives
I just could do a little more in the morning and, but,
It doesn't matter to me. I guess it doesn't
well, I like
matter.
it right now.
When it
10,
gets
10.
to harvest, I may leave.
Yeah, when it gets to
Well,
harvest.
we can change. I mean, we
For harvest.
we'll know when that's happening
Yeah.
at least a week or two before. We can change the meeting time, but let's just stick with
It
10.
gets to harvest, but I would keep it at 10.
Okay.
I like it. Now, I don't
I'm
know, do
okay
you
with
like
that.
it? You probably like it earlier, to 8.
She's here anyhow.
I don't care, so, yeah.
Let's
I'd like
stick
to
to
keep it.
10, and
Yeah.
if farming comes into play,
Yeah,
we'll
about,
change it
especially
then.
June
How about
and
that?
July. June
Okay.
is harvesting wheat and
Let's
and
do that.
planting heavy duty.
You probably need the time anyway.
It helps
Yeah,
me. It
for
helps me
sure.
get out of the house in the
Yeah,
morning.
you got
because
4
that's-
children you
yeah.
gotta deal with.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the
drive
Board of
over.
Health
The oldest
meeting
ones
on
are
May
bad.
6th.
Yeah.
Do you want it before your regular meeting or after your regular?
What?
The health board meeting,
For the Board of Health. That'd be that one with LaDonna.
the annual.
I don't, want to do it at 9 o'clock?
Sure, that sounds great. We'll put an hour in.
When's that?
May 6th.
So on the 6th of May at our regular Monday meeting, we'll just start an hour early because what we'll have is a Board of Health meeting, which is technically an open meeting anyhow, but it's an annual
With LaDonna.
LaDonna and the hospital.
Just remind me that's an hour
administrator.
earlier. So I
We
don't-
will. I'll announce
don't
it
sleep
the
late.
day before.
Okay. Well, and I'll try to put it on the agenda as well now, so, okay. So I will let LaDonna know so that she can get that scheduled. And then Alexis, Joanne had been trying to reach you from the Bank, Citizen State Bank, but if you're gonna sign our checks, which we've already got you on our check, you have to stop and sign their signature card.
Oh, theirs. Okay.
So,
Okay.
if you could
I'll
stop
swing
at
over
that
there
bank
today.
and do that, that would be great.
Yes, and
We
so
didn't think about it.
that's fine. I had requested the road and bridge supervisor job description just to be brought to the table again.
Yeah.
We really need to discuss this. We don't necessarily have to do it today, but I think we need to rethink a little bit of our structure as far as when Bob was answering questions, he was doing everything. He was reporting to all the sites, coming back, taking all of the complaints. I think we need to reevaluate the structure that we have there as far as
What would you suggest changing? Not that I'm against anything, I'm just curious.
I guess the one thing that's gonna make a difference is that we will probably not be able to hire anyone that has as much knowledge of every county road and structure.
Oh, internally, I
And be able to operate the equipment and be able to supervise a building, I mean, that's just not gonna happen again, I don't think.
Right.
So I think there's going to have to be some changes, and maybe we're going to have to go to multiple supervisors and just give them an extra quarter or something to.
Well, what I was going to talk about a little bit is, right now, there was a consolidation. We created a public works, which we don't really have public works because in a lot of places, public works includes if you do your own water system or if you do your own electrical system in a grid, then you're the public works director over that. So basically what happened was they took the highway department and put the landfill and the noxious weed under that to create public works. My concern with that is nothing has changed. The administration of those departments are still department heads. We didn't take away money from them, so we didn't demote them. We actually put a position over them, which really doesn't do any oversight. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah. But let me tell you why
Go
that
ahead.
was done. Because that was done because we were needing the highway department to haul trash. I mean, they were hauling the trash, and they were.
The employees from the highway department were working for
Yeah,
those
yeah,
departments.
and then the other way, we could pull a highway department to put in the landfill or the
And not have to
transfer
pay back
station.
between
You know,
budgets.
so we were trying to, we tried to do that, and that way they were integrated.
Integrated employees for different tasks.
Yes, we integrated the employees, not anyone, and then, of course, we had a guy that was spraying weeds in the summertime, and we put that into the east side. One of the highway guys on the east side of the county is doing the spraying now, so we didn't have to hire that extra guy in the summertime. So that's kind of the gist of why
Yes.
How that got
it
set
wasn't done to demote those guys or anything. It was just to make use of our employees. That's what we were
But
trying
since
to
we're talking about this too, we need to maybe determine, I don't know, maybe you guys do know, I don't understand Michael's, is he the over boss over the highway department supervisor over Bob when he was here?
Yeah.
Is he? So he has direct control over him and say so? I mean, I'm just
So
curious.
That was another thing that
Yeah.
when we did that, Michael was young and didn't have a lot of he had quite a little experience in the county, and we pulled in Bob because he knew all the roads, and we just felt that would be. And Bob seemed to have a good working relationship with men.
Sure.
And when you promote within, sometimes people have resentment.
Right.
And we felt that there might be some resentment because Michael wasn't the seniority person on the totem pole, hadn't been there long, you know.
Right.
And so that was one of the reasons. Michael had the ability to do
Do the, no, the
Technology.
IT. The technology.
Technology.
We didn't have that before.
Okay.
And we were to a point where we had to have somebody
Okay.
who knew the technology. So,
Well, I'm just curious.
so those are kind of the reasons that,
Yeah.
that stuff was
So are
done.
we gonna have Michael then? And does he then give orders to these guys, or kind of just lets the highway road supervisor operate on his own, and Michael doesn't do nothing, or does Michael direct them? See, people even ask me, well, how does Michael fit in this whole picture? Does he tell them what to do, or they just do what they know what to do, and Michael doesn't tell them what to do? You know, I'm confused on that.
Well, Bob usually gave the work orders.
Okay.
And I'm not sure there was a lot of communication between Michael and Bob at times,
Mhm.
you know.
No.
But I think Michael pretty much let Bob run the employees, tell them
Okay.
what to do.
Okay.
You know, and if something came up, Michael would visit with Bob or tell Bob, hey, this needs to be done, you know. But I think Bob was really calling most of the shots on what road was gravelled and what culvert was fixed and when it was done.
So now if we get a new highway supervisor or bridge supervisor, Michael may have to have a little more involvement, because this person we get, like you said, wouldn't have Bob's knowledge.
And I think Michael needs to be involved in the interviews of this person too, because it's gotta be somebody that he can work with or will work under him.
That's gonna be
Technically,
fun.
with the hierarchy, Michael should be the one doing the interview.
Yeah,
or
probably
of
should.
Employing the
Yeah.
people.
Well,
I
and
think
that's-
that's where the confusion was always at.
Yeah,
Was because according to that hierarchy, he's responsible for that
Yeah.
person. Then he needs to be responsible, and then he's responsible to you guys.
So you said then Michael should be interviewing highway
Yeah.
department people, huh? The
Yes.
road supervisor, not us? Or-
Well, this is my concern, okay? So it was just explained that the reason why we created the Public Works Director was so that we could do interdepartment budgetary things.
Yeah.
It was basically to be able to shift around, like you said, the employees and the
Employees,
money.
we were.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it really is not about the superstructure of the administration.
No, it wasn't.
There's my concern. Michael voiced his own opinion and his own stance that he will not be working more than 40 hours. I believe that we need to have a position that is management, boots on the ground, more than 40 hours. So what you do is you pay enough of a salary that they are exempt from overtime. And you expect them to put in kind of a 50-hour week. You know, we talked about this a little bit with EMS. Mr. I can't remember. No, and on the corner there.
Oh,
when
I
he was,
don't know.
Allowed.
a lad. He was expressing that when he was hired on, he was assuming that he was going to get 48 hours a week. Okay, I think when we restructure this a little bit, we need to have a boots on the ground manager that gets paid enough that we know and can expect 50 hours. This is not a 40-hour a week job, clock in and clock out. If that's what Michael wants, then this isn't really the position that we're trying to put in charge of all of this department and $2 million.
I think you've got a good point, Alexis. But once we reach that threshold, we've got a lot of other department heads that are gonna want that much money too.
Well, I think it depends. But
Management.
let's look at the budget though. Let's
That's what I'm saying.
$2 million versus
I'm
$500,000.
I'm sorry.
I
but,
know what you're saying.
You know, because we got in trouble with that Don Wright raising salaries of.
Yes, because you raised some
Yeah.
employee salaries.
Raise one, and they're better,
hire somebody.
they'll say you discriminate against them.
Well, but here's the thing: if we want to do what's right for the county, that's money well spent, in my opinion. When you're creating a position that's boots on the ground, and you are not going to clock out at 40 hours and walk away. If that's what someone wants to do, that's not truly upper management $2 million material. Okay.
Or would we better off paying hourly wage and paying overtime?
I don't think so, because you want someone who wants to know that that job is getting done. You know, if they're just going to clock in to get paid, that's a different type of person than someone that wants control and management over everything to streamline it. You know, if we're going to be hiring people into positions that say, I'm not doing anything more than my bare minimum, then that's a reflection on their pay. So when we up their pay, I think over the exempt
They
is
should have more
55,000.
responsibilities, like you're saying, and they should act more responsible because they're getting a higher position, more money, and they shouldn't be. Yeah, I know what you're saying,
But 55,000.
For a $2 million budget is what we're talking about, though. You know,
But we're also talking about a $8 million budget too.
I understand where you're coming from with that, but to have more people paid less who do less is more expensive than to have less people paid more who do more.
Right, if they're good employees.
you know, if they're dedicated. See, some people maybe aren't dedicated. No, I'm not saying that.
Well, is anyone? I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised at the quality of applicants that we've had in the last couple job positions.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, there's a reflection there on whether or not we're going to adequately fund those positions to expect more.
They're a long ways from 55,000.
You mean for a road supervisor
For what the job they like. I mean, that wage, unfortunately, in this county is extremely high.
Well, I think this is a serious job.
I would like to pay people as much as I can.
Yeah.
But the
we can't
reality is, we've got a county to run, and we're basically at 8 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how are we going to divide that money up? If you're going to do that to the highway department, you're going to have to pull from some other department, basically, to get that extra money.
Well, I personally think the public works director and a road supervisor job is the same job. You can have one person doing that job. Because what you just said was that you wanted someone on the IT side and on the experience side. When you pay enough, that person's going to put in those 50 hours who has knowledge for both. And so if someone else wants to just clock in for their 40 hours, there are ways we
We
can
need
accommodate
someone
that.
driving to those sites to make sure that that work is being done.
But you know what I found out? Well, I had a little conversation with the secretary of the department. The way Bob was doing it, which is that's the way he had established over his term. Every time a call came in, he was reporting to that site. No shovel, no, and I'm not asking an 80-year-old man to have a shovel. I'm just saying, no shovel, no men, no equipment, okay? So then another call comes in.
He was evaluating the call.
Right, but we can capitalize on the technology that we have in order to quit spending man hours and time doing that sort of thing. You know, if we're going to expect that every motor grader is in charge of his route, they should be reporting this scenario when they get a phone call. The secretary told me that not only would she call Bob, who would go out on the scene personally, but then she'd also call the blade operator, who either hadn't noticed it yet, or had already turned it in, or was going to go look at it too. So now we're paying 2 people to show up to evaluate it. You know, if we don't have enough communication with each person on his route to be able to assess and then give a phone call to the supervisor, who then, in my opinion, who then should organize and orchestrate and facilitate the fixing end of it, not just the assessment. You know, we're getting a lot of assessments done here that we're paying for that never go anywhere because it's all in one person's tablet. That's why the utilization of the 311 program would allow, if I'm a blade operator, I can pull that up and say, oh, I forgot that this road was reported, there's a flag missing. Why can that person not go do that themselves? We don't need to call a supervisor to come and put a flag out, which we were doing.
We also don't need the employee entering it into the tablet that there's a flag down. I mean, put the damn flag out.
But then why isn't it getting done?
I don't know, but we had an example
but
of
that
that.
goes back to management.
That goes back to management. They were typing all this stuff in, which was jobs that they were supposed to be doing, but they didn't do it.
So
they just typed them in.
So then that gives the supervisor a perfect opportunity to say, excuse me, Randy, you put this, this, and this in here. Why didn't you do it yourself?
Yeah.
Don't delegate responsibilities to me on your supervisor. That's the kind of
coordination needs to be better.
Exactly.
We need a little more better coordination. I think Michael today came in and sounded like too he was wanting to get with the 311 and like when Sharon offered to drive around and maybe take pictures with the of this stuff. And Michael said too he's working I think to get into the electronic age more with this stuff, get it reported on the system, and then it takes time to get them to convert to using this stuff, but we need to reemphasize to keep doing it.
But there also has to be.
Now Bob was, 80. He didn't want to.
Right, he didn't. Well, I understand that.
So,
I do understand
and
that.
I understand
it's overwhelming for some people, but I still think that we need to look at this position seriously and see what are the benefits. What is the point of having a supervisor over the road and bridge supervisor? What has?
Well, that's just. I was wondering.
At this point, it hasn't.
Could Michael be the both? Or is that too overwhelming? Or if he was both, could he then have a guy under working him? Well, he was with Mr. Zacco today. But could he have a lead guys under him or foremans under him? One guy foreman for the bridge, one for the roads. And he's over both. Now I don't know. I don't know. You guys know better than I do, Aljo. You better know how it works.
Well, I think you're right that we need a foreman for the bridge, and we probably need a foreman for the roads. You get into the problem where you have these 10 districts or
Yeah.
Yes, routes.
10 districts, you know, and to have one of those guys in that district to be over those road barriers, that's not practical because he's got a job to do himself, you know.
Right.
You know, that's, you know, we did have, at one time, we did have a lead truck driver that kind of made sure the guys got their trucks going when they got to the place, and we kind of, that kind of didn't, it worked for a while, and then as people get to, you know.
Do you think we should work under our existing system, like Michael stays where he's at, and we just get another person to replace Bob? And
I don't think you can find anybody because nobody's going to have that kind of experience. I don't think they can do that. I just don't think they can do that. They just don't have the expertise. They haven't built roads for.
So what do we do to replace Bob?
Well, I think that's where we're at. You know, do you break it down now? You know, and I think Michael needs to be on this. What does he need? What does he need underneath him?
Well,
besides 26
I'm
people.
going to go back to what I said. If this person is voicing to the commission that they're not willing to put in a dime more than 40 hours, even at this point, he would be getting paid overtime. So if that's not the stance of the position that we have in charge, then we need to rethink the structure.
Well, maybe we need to discuss that with him more again, saying, you know, Michael, we need to maybe require you to do maybe more than 40 hours, and maybe we can boost his pay. But you have a little more responsibility. Now Bob's gone, so you're going to have more responsibility to oversee what Bob used to do. You may have to do it. But maybe we can have him have helpers, maybe, and he may have to do 50 hours. Maybe not all the time, but if it's busy and there's a major, say a major big flood and a washouts of bridges and roads, he may have to put in 60. He may have to put in a lot more hours because there's you know,
That's
there's
exactly right.
Emergency work or
That's
something.
exactly right.
Then he may have to show up. But the regular week, maybe do 40, you know, if everything's going good. But he shouldn't just say, well, it's at 40 no matter what, and I'm going home. That ain't.
Well, we have positions for that.
Yeah.
We have positions for that.
Yeah.
We pay that.
Well, maybe we could talk to Michael about that, saying if you got to do more than 40, Michael. But maybe we could increase pay and give him more responsibility because Bob's not here, so he's going to have to help out with that over on management.
Well, I guess what I'm seeing is, you know, I had asked Michael point blank at the table what he spends 90% of his time doing, and it's office. Okay, it's office administration. So we need to look at, do we have an office administrator or do we have a boots on the ground working foreman who is the department head? There's a big difference there.
Yeah, but I think he could be both, don't you? You don't have to be one or the other.
I don't think anyone would be both without a pay increase.
Well, maybe we can discuss that.
That's ample.
But you, Aljo, you know, you've been here a long time and know how this operates. And with Bob gone now, I just want to make sure our regular workers are managed out here, out on the road.
I think that's where we're at now.
Yeah. Are they managed? Do they know what to do from day to day? Are
they're kind of on their own, I think.
Are they on their own? Well, that's just it. And do they? And a lot of them, I think.
And we have probably more than half of them are doing a good job.
Yeah.
We got a few of them that are, and I don't think it's as bad as it used to be.
No.
Sleeping in the graders and doing things like that.
I drove around yesterday, clear out southwest.
But we have some that are pretty conscientious, I think,
yeah,
and are very, very astute at what they're doing.
Very good, yeah.
And some of them
aren't and learning.
Well, yeah.
They're learning and all.
And I think we have a few that are great operators at whatever they're doing, but they don't want to be management. You know, that's a personality thing. So there's limited ways that we can there's limited ways that we can promote from within. But we also want to be careful not to promote people who don't have the particular technique that we want spread, as far as, you know, the habits and whatnot to get into.
Well, we'll have to discuss this more, I guess.
Are
we supposed to look this over and research and see if we like this or what?
Right. One of the notes I made is essential functions. See, we have basically monitor work and interview and hire and train and da-da-da-da-da. But as far as, you know, assist office manager with maintenance records, develops and maintains a special project list. These things have not been brought to the table very often for us to see. And not that I want to see every little thing that's going on, but you have to have someone who wants a comprehensive plan on paper. And that should definitely be what we consider in this position. And just like Aljo mentioned, work orders. Yeah, we need to know who's giving those work orders and to which groups.
Yeah.
You know, if we have a public works director and we have a road and bridge supervisor as well, does the road and bridge supervisor only give out culvert work orders?
Yeah.
Does the public works director give out the work orders for tree trimming? Or, you know, none of that has really been established, and I think that's where you have that crossover between someone who's been here a really long time and just kind of called it as he saw it, versus someone who's been trying to organize things in the computer, you know.
Thursday, right? 10 o'clock.
Yes, the meeting will be
Thursday at 10?
Thursday, end of the month, Thursday, March 28th at 10 a.m. And I guess
And I think
Adjourn.
these issues are fine, except we don't want to overwhelm someone, would have to overload them with so much at once. I think maybe they could work into the job to get down to the details and things like that, you know what I'm saying?
Well, some people
Yeah.
want to work, and they want to work more than whatever it takes, or do what it takes, I should say.
No, I know, but they need to do